results of the presidential polls at the Mombasa of Kenya, Commissioner Ombaso reiterated the need for Parliament to delink party politics when selecting commissioners fit to run IEBC.
Parliament, as you vet commissioners, please ensure the commission is not populated by political stooges. This is a national commission. It is not a place for political rewards. And I wish to thank the Bomas Choir. Even when objects were flying left, right, center, some of those objects actually injured us physically. The choir kept on singing. I recall going into Siberia in my own country together with Commissioner Molu and CEO Marjan. We went into hiding to a unknown location.
Commissioner Ombaso, Professor Adeglia and Chairperson of Cheboi have finished their term of service at the IEBC. This as a commission inquiring on what happened during the August elections continues to sit as it investigates. Commissioner Irene Masit, who is battling to prove that she is innocent of all the charges leveled against her. It will also be remembered that 3 other commissioners, Juliana Cherera, Francis Wanderi and Justice Nyangaya, resigned from the commission. Now, the High Court has directed the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission to deliver all election materials from Wajir East, Eldoret and Wajir East constituencies within 7 days for scrutiny. This so the court can determine a petition filed by Hassan Aden Mohammed of the Jubilee Party challenging the election of Governor Ahmed Abdullahi of ODM in the 2022 general election. High Court Judge George Ndulu ordered the materials be produced for scrutiny and verification. To matters education and junior secondary school students in public schools will not be required to pay school fees. Education CS Ezekiel Machogu says the government will instead cover the tuition fees for public schools to the tune of 15,000 shillings per student. At the same time, the Ministry of Education has asked schools to select different uniforms for the grade 7 students. Junior secondary schools will open on the 30th of this month for the first term of the academic year.
At this particular level, because it is secondary, the uniform will not be the same, and each and every board of management will be able to make a decision as to the color and the type of uniform that students will be required to put on. And of course, as is the case, parents will have to bear the responsibility of buying uniforms for their children.
Machogu also said that all candidates who sat the KCPE exams last year have been placed in secondary schools, adding that those who scored 400 marks and above will join national schools. The CS warned head teachers against asking parents to pay extra fees or ask for extra requirements for students joining Form 1.
Parents whose children are enrolled in public day secondary schools should not be charged any fees because the government is catering for all their tuition costs amounting to Kenya shillings 22,244. Parents should report instance of any student turned away for not paying higher fees and other levies to the nearest education office for action.
And LGBTQ activist Edwin Chiloba will be buried today at their home in Sergoit Village, Elgeyo Marakwet County. The body will be removed from the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital morgue this morning and ferried home for burial. His cousin Gladys Chiri said burial plans had been finalized and the family will be at the morgue by 8 a.m. this morning for collection. Chiloba was found murdered and his body stashed in a metal box which was dumped at the outskirts of Eldoret town. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
morning. Welcome is what I was trying to say. Welcome to Tuesday. What does it look like on these streets this morning? It looks like we're just starting out and seeing what it's going to look like in most parts of the city. I think we're all right. Coming through towards Uhuru Highway out to the Nyeri Stadium Junction roundabout, going into the city, you're all right. On the Thika Superhighway, not much in terms of traffic. Looking at that junction coming in then from Kiambu County, you should be all right into the city, at least for now. Coming off of Kiambu Road is looking good as well. Mombasa Road, so there's some construction going on just before that Imaradaima drift. They're working on that lower road, and it looks like it might be some traffic because of that. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's see what it looks like in a short while, but it looks like we're starting the morning off right.
Spice FM, Malindi. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the...
Good morning at a few minutes after 6 o'clock. It's actually 8 after 6 on the what? On the 17th of January, 2023. How are you this morning? It's Tuesday. We're getting into the week really well and hope you're doing all right from where you are. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is me with my tweeting song, and that's just about the size of it. City, you're under the table. Now you're over, under.
Question that you wanted to ask?
How are you this morning?
I am very well, thank you, this morning.
Well done.
The good thing is that it's not cold. No, it isn't.
No, it isn't. No, it's not cold.
It's pleasant.
It is. It's actually getting warmer and warmer by the day. But you're fine though. How are those? Good to see you.
Right.
Morning, Eric.
Good morning.
How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Fine. I slept in installments, man.
Okay. What's your balance?
Negative.
Negative. Negative meaning what? No more sleep left?
No, as in... It's a lack. I kept waking up. I don't know why. Maybe I'm anticipating something great.
You kept waking up.
Like every half hour, I'd wake up, look at the time.
And then?
My powers of interpretation are limited to an itching palm.
Itching palm?
Means money is coming.
Yeah, you think so?
No, my palm isn't itching. I'm just giving the example of something that I'm able to do. If your palm is itching, I'm able to tell you that money is on its way.
Okay.
But if you can't sleep...
Have you verified this?
This one? It's one of these things I don't need to verify. Because someone is receiving money somewhere in the world. So, I really can't be wrong. When I start to become specific is where I'll have a problem. As long as I'm generalizing, I am safe. Yes.
It works.
It works.
Okay.
Okay. Me, I'm fine. Me, I slept well through the night. Welcome to the Situation Room, everybody. Let me tell you what we'll be discussing today. At 7 o'clock, we will be joined by a lady called Nelly Cheboi. Nelly is the CEO and founder of Techlit Africa. And just recently, she was crowned as the CNN Hero of the Year 2022. And of course, that news spread like wildfire across the country. So the CNN hero will be with us in the studio this morning. Be ready for her. At 8 o'clock, we have a conversation about research and governance in Africa, insights from initiative to develop African research leaders. Professor Sam Kinyanjui is the head of training and capacity building at the Kemri Wellcome Trust program and the director of IDEAL. He'll be with us, Professor Sam Kinyanjui, at 8 o'clock. At 9 a.m., we talk to Tim Kipchumba, who emerged as the runners-up in the Elgeyo Marakwet senatorial by-election. He will be here with us, telling us the lessons from the campaign trail, what he was telling the people, what he learned, learned and heard from the people, and what he thinks, based on his interactions with the people, the government should focus on. Okay, those three coming up today, Tuesday, 17th January. What is happening globally with regards to COVID?
671,603,232. That's what the world COVID numbers look like as of today. We're also looking at other stories making headlines with COVID. Let's start with Kenya, where the Ministry of Health tells us that 2 people tested positive from a sample size of 120. We're looking at, again, about 1% in terms of positivity rate. The biggest stories for COVID coming out of China, and they're saying that one Chinese province, not China, one Chinese province spent $22 billion on eliminating COVID before policy U-turn. Looking at the province.
What did they do?
Okay, so I'll tell you in a minute. A number of regional governments in China have revealed the enormous sums they spent on fighting the pandemic, reinforcing a previous state media report suggesting that mounting counts were a key reason why the country abruptly abandoned its zero COVID policy, rather mounting costs. One reason is being given that, this thing was becoming too expensive for us to keep these measures in place. Because, look, these guys kept a pretty tight ship in terms of what they were doing. We're looking at, you can't go to the grocery store unless it is an emergency. We'll bring food to you. The QR codes were up to date. There were personnel all over the place to make sure that people were actually home. There were people who were delivering groceries. So it was a cost on the state. So many say this was one of the reasons why they said, look, we can't do this much longer. Okay. When China reopened its borders and formally downgraded its management of COVID as a serious infectious disease, the state-owned Xinhua agency published an article disclosing the main reasons behind the leadership's change of their policy. They say it's difficult to eliminate the virus, and the social cost and price of COVID prevention and control are rising. So last week, governments across began to convene at what they were calling legislative sessions, and they were laying out their policy goals for the year. And they looked at the budgets plans for the coming 12 months, but also remember that the Chinese New Year happens in a couple of days. So this was the planning for the year. And they sent that the country's top province spent a total of 22 billion shillings over the past 3 years since 2020, according to them. And this money was spent on testing, vaccination, policy reinforcement related expenses. It did not include medical related spending and public health expenditure. So it was looking at this and they said, look, this is one of the reasons why. And it was equivalent to 35% of the province's spending on research and development.
Yeah.
So they said, look, folks are getting short on cash. Let's stop this thing. And then they could see the results of the same thing thereafter. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming weeks in China, but it remains that they've lifted the measures and they're going to go on with life like the rest of the world.
Good for them. Hiya. And about the other thing, this other country called Kenya?
I told you already.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh. That was today?
I tell you again. 2 cases from a sample size of 120 gives Kenya a positivity rate of just about 1%.
Okay.
It remains just so.
Okay. 16 after 6. Good morning. Let's take this quick break to take a look at the weather, and then we will look at newspaper headlines shortly. Are you online? If you are, let us know where you're tuned in from this morning. Just tag us on Twitter, SpiceFMKE, or go to our Facebook page and post a comment. Tell us where you are locked in from.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Behind every crime and murder, there's a reason and a motive, some dark, some simple, and some unbelievably terrifying. But truth is, no one really knows what happens behind closed doors. Well, until now. I, John Allen Namu, will be opening The Last Door to reveal the truth behind the nation's most infamous criminal happenings in a new true crime documentary called The Last Door on Maisha Magic Plus DSTV channel 163 and GoTV channel 8. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. as we look into the heart of crime and sieve rumor from truth. Dial star 423# to get or stay connected to DSTV or GoTV.
All right, so looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, we'll go to highs of 26 and come down to lows of 17. Looking into Nakuru, partly cloudy conditions at 11, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 25 in a cloudy Nyeri at 15. It's 10 degrees and cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 24, and looking into Mombasa, it's 25 and partly cloudy with highs of 32. 32 will also be the high in a cloudy Malindi at 26, going to lows of 25. It's cloudy at 18 in Kisumu, highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 30 in Kakamega, where it's cloudy at 14. Out into Kampala, partly cloudy conditions at 17, highs of 28, and it's 32 that'll be the high Tuesday in Dar es Salaam, where it's cloudy at 26. 18 and mostly cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 29 and lows of 16. Looking out into a cloudy Lagos, it'll get warm to highs of 34 today, and Kinshasa will see highs of 29. It's 1 degree and sunny. Out in Beijing Tuesday afternoon, we'll see highs of 3 and lows of minus 11. It's 0 in Paris. It's a snowstorm. Highs of 4 and lows of 0. Minus 2 in London this morning. Highs of just 3. Cloudy conditions coming down to lows of minus 2 with snowstorm in sight as well. It's 5 degrees and clear in New York Monday night. Coming into Tuesday, we'll see highs of 9 and lows of 1.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Joshua Dishon says he's online. Telling you that he's here.
Where?
Here. With you.
All right.
And Jaja says good morning. He's tuning from Nyamasaria in Kisumu. And he says, please speak about tuk-tuks in Kisumu using pathwalks here. Imagine you cannot listen to your music on the roads in peace, Bwana. Okay.
Using what? Pathwalks.
Pathwalks.
What are pathwalks?
Pathwalks.
Okay.
Then he's asking, what is CT doing under the table? My brother, I was also wondering. Now he's over the table. Hey. Trace tuned in from Florida in the US, and Kiplimo from Kericho says good morning. Kinaine in Athi River is where Asman is, and Jambo Czech Republic is where Matthias Owalo is, and says I'm all ears and eyes watching via Facebook. Fantastic. Ivewa Francis says he's tuning from Mombasa and says have a great day ahead. Spice FM, good morning. You're tuning from Eastlands. Say hi to my namesake Muga, White Rhino. Now this guy is Njeru Munyi. He's called White Rhino. We were told the other day that Njeru
Degwanjiro.
Jiro, right?
Black Rhino.
Black Rhino.
No, Black Bull.
Black Bull.
Not Rhino. Where did the rhino come from? It was Black Bull, you're right.
It was Black Bull. You're the rhino. Okay, so somehow he has seen that the rhino and the bull are related this morning.
Now today today is a Munyi. Munyi is rhino.
Oh, Munyi is rhino. Voila. You rhino as well. Muga, Munyi, karibuni sana. Join yourselves.
He's white rhino.
Him, he's white rhino. You, which color are you? Rhino.
We're discussing blue this morning.
Fantastic. You want to be blue?
Blue is good.
Blue rhino.
Blue rhino.
Ndiyo. Docker Smash says good morning. Vincent Ogutu is tuned in this morning. Josiah Masehe. If you were in Uganda, the GHE would be pronounced ye. So I can call you like that. Maybe it's easy.
GHE is?
GHE is ye.
GHE
GHE
is ye.
Ye.
Okay.
in dialects in Uganda.
Sawa.
Jose Moshiri says, good morning, happy Tuesday, guys. Bay Wamacha tuned in from Machakos County. Arnold Ondigo is tuned in and listening from Kisumu. Samuel Karanja says he's tuned in from Naivasha. Al-Hajj is tuned in from Mombasa. Zachary Kahonyo says, good morning. It's good we have woken up to start conquering the day together. Okay. Zachary is on a charm offensive. Okay, some kind of offensive. And he says he's starting Putin Stop the War. That's a hashtag. Kindly make it go viral. It shall be my signature. Okay, Zachary. Maelo Simon says good morning and thank you for joining us, each and everybody who's online. Karibuni sana.
Everybody, welcome. City.
Yes, please.
Uh-huh.
We are still in the country of
Mozambique.
Do not try to fight a lion if you are not one yourself.
Do not try to fight a lion if you're not one yourself.
Got it.
Okay.
However,
We get it, eh?
if you are one, by all means,
Fight.
If you're not, by all means.
don't.
Avoid fighting a lion if you're not one yourself. Okay. You want to watch lions? You can get kind of documentaries that tell you about the animals on this planet on Showmax. Showmax.com. Or you just download the Showmax app on your mobile phone or on your devices. You get to watch documentaries. You get to watch live TV in some cases. And you also get to watch movies and series and Showmax originals, all that on showmax.com. Shall we take a look at the newspaper headlines?
Let's do that.
What's on the front pages?
Standard. Dream schools that top KCPE pupils will join. So we saw the results coming out yesterday. Rather, the selection results coming out yesterday. So we'll look into that story. Commissioners went into hiding after poll results, according to IEBC bosses. They reveal the last moments after announcing poll outcome as Chairman Wafula Chebukati calls for a thorough probe. Safaricom risks fines over Lipa and M-Pesa. The court has said, you know what, until we have heard this case, halt the charges. Folks are complaining that charges have not been halted. We'll look at that story as well.
The people are still charging.
They are still charging. So there could be a tad of trouble if they do not stop. Form 1 blues for KCPE stars and parents. There's a whole hullabaloo of what's going on here in terms of are we boarding or not? Are we going to junior high? What does that mean? We're looking at grade 6 and their assessment results supposed to be coming out today. And Machaku's plans for junior secondary and what they mean. 1.2 candidates who sat the 2022 KCPE examinations in the country. The candidates are the second last cohort of learners under the 844 system. So we look at that as well. What else?
What else?
Vulnerable groups to be starved of cash. I'm sure you want to know what that's about, don't you? Tell you later.
Okay. That's both the Standard and the Nation.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you about the Business Daily. Rich Kenyans sit on 922 billion shillings in dollars as the shilling weakens. Wealthy Kenyans and firms had piled up a record $922 billion by last November as they sought to preserve the value of their bank deposits amid a depreciating shilling. This is after they accumulated an extra 119 billion shillings in the 11 months to November in a trend that continues to put pressure on the local currency. So people are like, shilling, buy dollar, keep dollar, hold on to dollar, don't let the dollar go. KRA hooks second batch of betting firms on its system. The taxman has hooked the second batch of the top 10 betting companies on its system, bringing the total number of companies it has real-time access to 16 as it scales up the fight against tax cheat in the sector. The taxman told the Business Daily in an emailed interview that the real-time payments and the data transmission for the rest will commence by Friday this week. Hiya. The ticker headlines. Wealthy Kenyans are more trusting of the government. 20% of Kenyans do not believe their economic conditions will improve in the next 5 years. Findings of a new survey that also found that wealthy Kenyans are more trusting of the government. Job losses, struggling companies deny KRA 30 billion shillings in taxes, and insurance customers cash out 10 billion. Insurance firms paid 10 billion shillings to customers abandoning policies in 9 months ended September last year, underlining the economic hardships that continue to batter families. City.
Yes, please.
What's on the front page of the Star?
The Star. DCI officers plotted to kidnap Chebukati.
Oh no.
Chairman hid in a room at Bomas as cops exchanged harsh words with Ruto's guards. That is France.
So Ruto's guards were guarding Chebukati.
If I turn the page to page 4, that story becomes clearer. But that is for later, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, at the top right-hand corner, as always, there is a story, back to the drawing board. How Ruto's Nyanza trip has altered political terrain, thawed hostility. This is a story that will be on page 7.
Okay.
And then there is, at the bottom, Kenyan arrested in planning DRC church bombing that left 10 dead.
A Kenyan. There was a bombing in the DRC.
Yes,
There
North
was
Kivu.
at a
on
church.
Sunday.
Yes, 10 people died and 39 were injured.
And it's a Kenyan who's been arrested.
Yes,
Yeah,
his name
he's
is
being held.
Abdirazak Mukhtar Garad. He hails from Wajir County. Yes.
There was another Kenyan who'd been arrested. Was it last year or last year but one? Still in the DRC. In connection with terrorism. Okay. Let me tell you about the Financial Standard. Today is Tuesday, so Tuesday Financial Standard. Counties' long road to capital markets. Despite a law change allowing devolved units to issue infrastructure bonds to raise developmental cash, uptake is still low amid concerns about the shadowy nature of their financial operations. So counties, they have that route that they can use to issue infrastructure bonds to raise money. But we know only one had done that by the end of the last one.
Successfully, that is.
Like Kipia.
That's it.
And it has been halted by the new governor. Sakaja has been talking about doing the same for Nairobi. We will wait to see. You can tell us one story before you take this break.
Okay, let me tell you about this Form 1 blues
Okay.
for KCPE stars and their parents. The Form 1 selection results announced yesterday drew jubilation among candidates who secured their preferred schools, but sparked protests from those placed in far-flung institutions that they did not choose. Some disgruntled parents vowed not to take their children to these institutions, even as Education CS Mashogu said the computerized process was guided by the principles of merit, choice, equity, and availability of space. So it's no vendetta here, man. We just allowed the thing to choose. Now, interviews yesterday with some top performers indicated that most had landed top schools of their choices, but grievances still marred the exercise, with some disgruntled parents vowing not to take their children. The CS said only 38,972 had been placed in national schools, while all 9,443 candidates who scored 400 marks and above would join national or extra county schools of their choice. However, a majority of the 1.2 million learners, that is 762,610, were placed in sub-county schools, 199,027 in county schools, 228,160 in extra county schools, and 1,809 learners in special needs schools. The candidates, who are the second last cohort of learners under the 844 system to be admitted to secondary schools, will report for Form 1 between February 1st and 13th. The CS said the computerized selection process was strictly guided by the principles of merit, choice, equity, and availability of space. Nyeri County's top candidates from Good Shepherd Academy, Larry Gikonyo and Claire Wanjiro, will join Mangu High School and Kenya High School respectively. The top candidate in Mombasa County, Douglas Kilonzo, was selected to join Kapsabet High School. Dorcas Mudhenya of Maikelek Academy, who scored 419 to top the charts in Kwale, was placed in Moi Forces Academy, Lanette. So it just went on like this to tell us who went where. But we're hearing that folks who then were placed in what they're calling far-flung schools are not happy, and they're saying they're not taking their children there. So you guys can do what you want to do, but we are not boarding.
Is it the schools that the students selected?
Say again?
Is it the schools that the students selected?
That's interesting because...
Okay, so, a pupil has 4 choices for national school. and 2 each for, 3 for extra county, 2 for county, sub-county. So from the 4, if you're one of the 4 was a school that is very far from, like now that one is the top student in Mombasa who's been been selected for Kapsabet.
Yes. Top student in Mombasa selected to join Kapsabet, yes.
Well, if it's among the choices that the student had.
This is the thing that folks complained about, that in terms of selection process, they're still really not sure how to go about it. So do you remember when we spoke with Dr. Wahome? And she told us that that's one of the things that they're trying to see how they can do, even across board, not just at the KCSE level, but see how they can then advise. Because the selection process seems to be a bit difficult at that point when it's been opened. Who do you really know what you're doing when you're making the selection in terms of the extra county, sub-county, etc., etc.?
What?
So you might make a selection, but it's actually not what you want.
It's not what you want.
Yes.
Okay, and then for parents as well. So if your child has been admitted to a school, unless you have an issue with the school, what's it about? It's a distance. So the distance is it's going to cost you a lot more money to send the child to that school across the country. Okay. So you want them to be localized.
Right.
Even to university, you want them to be localized.
You want them to be close to you.
All right. Why don't we take a break?
Let's
It's 27 minutes to 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. John Namu's The Last Door returns this Sunday at 8 p.m. on Maisha Magic Plus on DSTV. Channel what? 163. And Channel 8 on GoTV. Make sure you have your subscription ready if you upgrade your subscription on DSTV and GoTV today. You get Maisha Magic Plus upgrade for free. Just do that to get to watch The Last Door by John Namu this Sunday.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's time to step up and shine. Get instant airtime or data with every purchase of specifically marked tin of black kiwi polish. What do you need to do? Walk to your nearest store, buy a tin of kiwi black shoe polish, and once opened, find a unique code under the lid. Dial *459*5# and send the code to stand a chance to win 35,000 Kenya shilling school fees every week, courtesy of Kiwi. Step up and shine with Kiwi.
Right, so
Terms and conditions
6:30,
apply.
It looks like it's packing up quite some coming into the city. Let's look at it coming off the Thika Superhighway, just at that Muthaiga Square junction, heading out towards Pangani is where we'll see the most of it. And if you look into Westland, some traffic coming out here and there off of Waiaki Way. James Gishoro not looking too bad, not for now at least. Let's look at Gong Road, heading out towards the city. It's also starting to pile up. And on Jogo Road as well, we're seeing some traffic as you head towards Kamkunji. That's just what it's panning out to be this Tuesday. We're keeping an eye on things. Let us know what it looks like on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
So there are people who
94.4 Spice FM.
as if because of the kind of school that their child has been admitted to. There are some 33,984 KCPE students who did not select a school to go to. They came from 2,673 schools. The learners, some of whom scored highly in last year's KCPE, had failed to select schools of choice for placement. Even as the government promised to give them opportunity in public schools, Education CS Ezekiel Machogu blamed parents and teachers for failing to give proper guidance to learners during school selection. Now, how does this happen? He says, I direct county directors of education to establish the concerned schools with a view of instituting administrative actions against the head teachers and or schools management for failing to adequately register learners for exams. Well, they were registered for exams. They sat the exams. The CS spoke while releasing the Form 1 placement results at the KICD. He urged parents to allow learners to take up schools that they have been placed in, directing all Form 1 students to report to respective schools between February 6th and 13th. How does this happen? How do 33,000 pupils not select a school? I mean, this is part of it. You register for the exam, you're studying for the exam, you know when the exam is going to be administered. One of the other things that you're doing is also you select your schools.
Unfortunately, as bizarre as it sounds, there are just a number of students. Look, for different reasons, but there are just a number who just did not do the selection.
What I wonder is, are there pupils in those schools who selected? Is it that there's a school that completely did not submit, or is it that there's a school that submitted for some and did not submit for others?
Yes, the latter. That there were submissions for some.
How do we know
I'll give you a typical example. So, at school with your students, every now and then you will get a list or you'll get a form and you say, kindly fill in this form.
Yeah.
And in primary school, you would have gotten it if you're in that system. And they'll say, please fill in this form in order for you to get the number then which is yours all through your, student life in the country, right? Some people just don't get around to doing it. And until you're if you are handing that over as teacher to school administration, CT can confirm or deny. At some point, the school admin is going to take the numbers that they have and send them over to the national system.
But how?
What do you mean how?
You know the pupils that you have in a class. You know the pupils that you're preparing for an exam. You're the one who's submitting forms. You know you have 38 children in this class. You have only 20 forms. How do you submit 20?
I know. That's why I said, remember I started off by saying it's bizarre. But you just don't. For whatever reason, it could be on this day something happened. But truth be told, there are some people who, number one, tried to register for these schools, didn't happen for whatever reason. Or make their selection, didn't happen. Or some who just didn't get round to doing it, some who just didn't do it.
Actually, it's almost impossible for what you've just described to happen.
But it is exactly what has happened.
No, this story doesn't quite explain what they're trying to say. What you're explaining is what lies in the realms of possibility. But the reality of how exams are registered, it's almost next to impossible for what we're reading here to happen.
We're talking about the selection of schools.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Not sitting for an exam.
No.
Selection of schools.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. It's next to impossible for someone to actually get to the point where you're sitting for an exam and you have not selected.
And yet here we are with 33,000 having not selected.
Some 2,000 schools.
You see where I'm going with my argument is that I think they selected. This
and
one.
Then?
Yes, now that's the and then that doesn't make sense.
Although, if you think about it, it's primary schools. Primary schools are across the country. Is it possible that there are some schools that are so far remote that, sometimes even a head teacher does not even know what everything that they're required to do?
Let me ask the question.
So you know that you have students that are going to sit a KCPE, all right? So you submit that. Now, the next thing about selection and all, your children will go to these local schools here anyway. So there's never been an issue of selecting what?
Eric, what happens is
that
well ahead of the exams, many schools will inform parents about this issue of choices, and the children will come home with the form and with an explanation as to how to choose whatever school it is you want to go to. At this level you choose 2, at this level you choose 1, etc., etc., etc. Now, what this story is telling us, that even when that happened, no choices were made.
I think there's a possibility that what you've just described does not happen in very many places. Now, if you go to very far removed areas, okay? So I'm just thinking of a small primary school in Oloriga, in like Tok, okay? Where these children, yes, they report to a school. Some of these schools are those, it's like a small private school, it's like a small public school. What the parent knows is my child is going to school, my child is in standard 8, my child is going to sit KCP. Those are the details of whether they are supposed to select and all, they don't know. The child does not know that they are supposed to select. The headmaster, this teacher, they know, but it's never been a really big issue. It's not the first time. Even last year, they did not do it. The previous year, they didn't do it. The other year, they didn't do it.
You can assume attention is paid, but it's not paid.
So in that school that has 30 students who are supposed to be sitting KCPE, the headmaster just knows I registered kids to sit the exam.
And that's
the rest of those details of select for what?
Exactly.
These children of mine will not go to national school. I know. These children will not go to extra county school. I know. These children will end up in
So we leave it up to
day school
circumstance.
A, day school B.
No.
day
Has
school
this
C.
ever happened before?
That, because remember guys,
appears so.
remember that there is 100% transition. So
Yes.
forget, you may be thinking here that it's a deliberate act, or we need to make sure that we register. In the back of the minds of many, there is 100% transition.
They will go to secondary school
They will
anyway.
go to secondary school anyway.
And for very
So-
many of them, the secondary school is that next one. We know where it is.
So for those who are not vested in making sure that your top whatever goes to which school in which area, they're going to leave it to the whims of circumstance.
You know where this
And that's
would
exactly
make sense?
what we are looking
if,
at.
If that school emerged just the year before the exam. But if this school has had students before, has this ever happened before?
Probably.
It's
you'll
just that now
find-
it's being highlighted. It is
You
not
will
possible
find
that
that
it
this
was at
school
zero.
has never had those things. That is
Yeah.
selection school.
What are you talking about? And
These
it's also
children-
not possible that in 2021, this number we're talking about was at 0, and then in 2022, it's at 33,000. Not possible.
You see, you can see where I'm going with my questioning. If this is something that has happened before and was never been captured, then what you're saying would make sense. However, there is something that has happened here that I can't put my finger on.
Or something that has been happening, and it
That's
has now
it.
come to light.
Yes.
You see, like
There's that
remember a couple of
possibility.
years back when there was a whole issue of a school headmistress who had to be suspended because she exposed something.
Yes.
That she's walking a long distance to go and collect.
Yes, exams.
Yeah, exams.
Even a picture of her was taken.
And who was causing issues? The education directors.
Yes.
Because they're the ones whose job has now been exposed. Same thing here. You'll find a county director of education knows there's some certain school who Kombali.
Hata juu kwa upande gani.
Those ones, whether they select or not. Selection what? Even when I look at the results, I'm not going to look at those ones. Those ones are going to score 100, 200, 300. In fact, 300 is very high. They'll end up in local school somewhere. Some of them will not even go to secondary school. That is it. But in the statistics, this child has sat at KCPE. This child needed to have been captured in the selection process. This child was not captured, so they emerge. Some 2,000 schools did not do it. And this is why I see when the Machogu is saying the county directors of education should establish the concerned schools and then come up with disciplinary measures, I think he should start with the county directors of education. How did it happen in your county?
This thing is bizarre.
Uh-huh.
It's absolutely bizarre. And what it's telling me, if I'm to believe everything that is being said, is that something went wrong with the education system and it went really, really wrong.
South, a long time ago. Njogu is saying secondary school selection is done on the Exams Council portal. Exams are printed with the learner's name.
Who takes it to the portal? The students.
This is what I'm telling you. This selection that you're talking about, the only way that it has not come out on the portal is because you did not put it there.
No.
Either that or it was there and somebody removed it.
Now, you see, you've actually pointed the chink I was speaking of. Because I am looking at, when students are given these things, these forms to fill.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Believe me, the process is that it is checked to ensure that before it's taken in, it has been filled. What's been filled is a different matter.
City, my darling.
Yes.
I really applaud you. But one thing you must also understand, that not everybody will deal with the precision that you yourself would. You see what Eric has said now about head teachers and the assumption in some cases. The thorough manner in which you would do something. Please, don't assume that everybody will do the same thing.
I am actually caught up in this warp because no, I am caught up because it's.
I like the faith that you have.
We have, we've entered. You've actually ushered me into the realm of not just the bizarre, but the unpleasant reality that this is a possibility.
Yes.
And for me, it's unpalatable.
Of course, it's unpalatable, but at some point,
That's where the
problem
the county
is.
directors of education are the ones who should be answering these questions.
Yes.
They're the ones. Because they're the ones who should be supervising the school administrators. And if if this has happened, where were you? Did you check? Did you make sure that these things has happened? Did you not? One of the other things that we need to also highlight here is out of the 1.23 million pupils who sat the KCPE exam, 762,000 are going to sub-county schools, a majority of which, of course, day schools. Now, just to remind everybody that over 70% of children in secondary school go to sub-county schools. How much money is actually put in sub-county schools and their facilities? When all students are fighting for these national seats where they only get 38,000 children going to national schools, extra county schools getting 228,000, majority, now if you just add county and sub-county schools, close to 900,000.
It's not close. It's above 900,000.
Over 900,000.
It's inching towards 1 million.
Closer to 1 million.
Yes.
Are going to county and sub-county schools. Now, how much? How many labs? How many libraries? What kind of classrooms and facilities do we have in these schools where a majority of Kenyans go to?
I know we spent some time on this story, but let me just tell you something
Yes.
that the CS had said yesterday, which is very interesting. The story is looking at it being that the ministry is reversing the bid to do away with primary boarding schools.
Okay.
This 70% of the secondary students are day scholars, all right?
Yes.
Which is a clear indication that more support should be directed toward developing these schools. As a result, I encourage all boarding schools to establish day wings in order to improve access and reduce the cost of education. So according to them, one of the reasons why they were looking at reducing, or rather eliminating boarding school, as it were, was because it was too expensive for the country, for the government, to have children in boarding school in terms of how much they were spending per child. So now, based on what you're saying, is there, in terms of infrastructure, in this same story, he's gone on to talk about the challenge of infrastructure in these schools, that it's just not enough, that they don't know where they're going to be able to get it. They don't know. And that's where they are right now. Infrastructure is not there. It doesn't exist. It is not enough. What are they actually going to do about it?
There's a very big injustice that actually happens in our education system. Complete.
And it's been happening for a long while.
Very many years. It's total inequity, and the government knows it. The government does not dedicate enough resources to actually facilitate the majority of Kenyan students to get the best quality education possible.
No, they don't. They don't.
Meanwhile,
And it also explains the proliferation of what we call private schools, and why it is parents keep opting to take their children
to private
and in
school.
so doing, ensuring that they are poverty stricken by the end of that education cycle. Because parents will do everything and anything to ensure their children go to school.
and ask yourself why the education budget is the chunk that it is, and then why you're not seeing the result that you should see.
Isn't that the question, really?
And yet the largest
biggest budget we
chunk of our budget in the
Goes to
country
education.
Goes for education.
What on earth is that? The largest household budget again in a year.
Is education.
Eh? Ni nini? Ni nini?
Bless.
Can I tell you a story?
Please.
This story is in the Business Daily. It's in the financial business and all. We talked about it earlier, even you. And it's. Did you read it? It's one of the headlines in the Nation. Safaricom is yet to finalize a plan to block customer contact details when making payments through Lipa na M-Pesa. So that's one story, okay? The planned move is aimed at curbing personal information from being traded to advertisers or leaking to fraudsters in line with data protection legal requirements. The telco had earlier said it would only display the first name of subscribers making payments through the platform and a few digits of their phone number, effectively hiding the contact of the customer. Safaricom yesterday did not provide a new date for the rollout of the service, but said it's racing to come up with a solution. So this is what happens when you pay by Lipa na M-Pesa. You know, sometimes it displays the whole thing, your name, your full telephone number, and so this becomes a data mining platform for these merchants. For example, if a person named John Doe with a phone number +254 blah 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 makes a payment, the only data that should be passed along is John and +254 XXXXX, the last 3 digit S54 has paid that. So far I'm saying that's what they're working on.
Wait a moment.
I will wait a moment.
There was some thinking behind what we've just said they're trying to scrap, isn't it?
No, the thinking, initially, I think there was not much thinking into. it's the same way, like if I send you money, you'll see you've received money from
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Phone number ABCD.
Yes.
Now, if you go to a merchant and you're doing Lipa na M-Pesa, okay, you go to a fuel station, you go to a restaurant, you go to wherever you.
They would give more details.
Lipa na M-Pesa. It just shows the same way. Charles Timothy Muga, telephone number, blah blah blah, has paid.
Yes.
Okay, so that merchant does not need to know all your name.
No, he doesn't actually. He doesn't even need to know where I live.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, this merchant can now just transfer all these things into a ledger book and sell that to.
So that's why we get some of these very strange calls, people asking you and telling you all sorts of things you never know.
Yep.
Yes. Offering you services you don't even need.
You don't even know.
You didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or some of these merchants also just sending you random messages all the time. Oh, please come today. We are giving you free offers, blah, 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 blah. It's because they have all your details. Yeah. There was that other story. The other one was about banks not doing the thing that
They're
was
not
supposed
doing
to
the
have been done.
I tell you.
Yes.
Okay, so Safaricom risks fines over Lipa na M-Pesa. So we know that our friend Moses went to court and said, look, this is not fair, stop it. And so court says before then, Safaricom now needs to, slash those charges. Okay? However, it would appear that even as you're still Lipaing na M-Pesa, you're still Lipaing na charges. And so there's a possibility that because they're yet to finalize this, the plan... because they're yet to finalize this, it's possible that they could be fined up to 5 million if they don't. Wait, it's not the same story.
Which one is this? Which one are you reading?
It is a standard. And which page is it?
Page 24. That's the one I've just read.
Yeah, that is the one you've just read. Wait,
is it?
There's another story here. Just a minute. City, tell us another story while I find it, because I did see it.
Let me read it. It's in the Business Daily. Commercial banks were yesterday still waiting for a formal communication from the CBK to suspend charging customers for money transfer services to mobile money wallets in line with last week's court order. A number of lenders who are now facing a risk of being found in contempt of court told customers that they'll continue with the charges in the absence of CBK clarification on the matter. The High Court on October 19th issued interim orders suspending the return of the charges from the 1st of January. The case is scheduled for mention on the 23rd of January, but many banks, including KCB, Standard Chartered, Equity, Stanbic, and I&M, continued with the charges by the time of going to press. Safaricom is also still charging for transfers from M-Pesa to banks. The lenders told the Business Daily inquiries that they were ready to effect the changes as soon as they get the CBK communication. What communication?
The communication.
See, the court has told you to stop it.
Who do you listen to? The person
Did
who
CBK
essentially
tell you to charge?
regulates how you operate, or the person who makes the laws in the country?
You know what I'm thinking of? There's somebody who's in charge of communication who has issued out that communique.
So
the organization that has employed that person needs to rethink. What on earth is that person talking about?
They said they're waiting
for CBK to tell them. So now, if we don't charge for this transfer.
Do they know the roles of the courts in this country?
It would appear not.
Okay, does the CBK know?
Does the CBK know that they're being waited for? Does the CBK know that they're being waiting for this thing to be effected?
Because banks are waiting for official guidance and
from the
communication.
CBK. Meanwhile, the court said one thing. The court made a ruling on that day and said, look, until this case is heard on the 24th, it's not 24th, or 23rd of January, stop the charges. Do you need any more clarity than that?
Yeah.
Absa Bank, however, says they have opted not to charge for the transactions as they wait for CBK clarification.
They've opted.
Yeah. They've said, us guys, and as we wait for CBK clarification, blah, 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 we are stopping. We are not
according
going
to
ahead.
the court, okay.
Yes. KCB, on the other hand, remained non-committal when Business Daily reached out for a response, only indicating they'd communicate to their customers if they make changes.
I bank with Absa and I can confirm that what they've said is true. They're not charging.
They don't charge it?
No, they don't charge.
Deposit and withdrawal?
Me, I haven't seen charges. Deposits, I need to have money to deposit.
Well, you've been withdrawing. At least you have money in the bank.
It is actually a requirement. Okay. So now, can I tell you how? That was hide and seek. Ositi, you want to tell us a story?
No, I do not want to tell you anything. I have to listen.
You want to listen?
Yes.
All right. Chebukati's confessions is carried on page 7 of The Nation. Parting shots. The Electoral Agency has asked President William Ruto to order a public inquiry into the events leading to the declaration of the final results of the August 9th, 2022 presidential election. Mr. Wafula Chebukati, the outgoing IEBC chairman, also revealed that the poll witnessed the highest number of attempts to undermine the independence of the agency and usurp its powers. Yani, as in ever. This was the worst, according to what he's saying. Undermining the integrity and in what?
Integrity.
Independence. Thank you.
Independence of a commission.
Of the integrity.
Such things. They said this was, if you people had tried before, this one was the worst.
It was the mother.
It was the mother of all.
I have to ask this question. Is he ready for that inquiry that he's talking about?
Well, interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, he's ready.
He's ready,
That he
He
cited.
has a lot to say.
He's a lot to say.
Let me tell you the things he cited. Intimidation by security organs.
Okay.
Lobbying by the National Security Advisory Committee, that's the NSAC.
Okay.
Disinformation campaigns and the murder of a returning officer as some of the attacks against the IEBC. I mean, surely, these things, just those 4 of them, that's enough for you to say, look here. These are grave injustices having been done to a body that is supposed to be independent. We need an inquiry. We need these things to be checked out.
Point that he's making is a valid one. The problem is this.
It's not finished.
He
still
just
has
started.
other things.
No, please, pray, continue.
He also cited ethnic profiling and open threats against members of the commission and staff, illegal arrest and detention of staff and service providers, assault of some members of the commission, staff and service providers by goons and law enforcement agency at the Bomas of Kenya, and some county and constituency tallying centers, as well as abduction and murder of the Embakasi East constituency returning officer Daniel Musyoka as threats that befell IEBC. He said, you cannot take this list of things and not do something about it. So there was the election, we declared blah, 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 there was all of that. But I urge you, you guys have to look into this thing.
You know,
because it could get worse.
Having said these things,
I agree.
They have been said. Now, there'll be this little issue of trying to verify whether everything that he's saying is actually true. And
that's why he's saying an inquiry
this is
must
after the fact.
Okay.
That's why we need an inquiry.
Yes. Right. Let's have the inquiry.
To determine whether what he's saying
He said
is
it's a
true
gravity. It's a gravity.
and what happened. The IEBC will never be independent as long as politicians
are included in the
playing
soup.
a role in that whole thing.
Precisely.
Leave them out of it.
Never ever.
Yeah.
And the
It's
leadership in
another
IEBC will be following instructions for whoever gave them that job that they have
Yes.
for the longest time.
Yes.
Simple.
Yep.
Yep.
The new bid is now to have more politicians still doing more.
Having more of a say
More
and
say in the
determining
selection of
who,
IEBC.
so that they can complain later for what they themselves have created.
Yeah. Keep it here for more conversations. In the next hour, we speak to Nelly Cheboi, the CNN hero for 2022. She'll be joining us. And remember, John Alan Namu's The Last Door returns on Maisha Magic Plus this Sunday from 8 p.m. Get yourself subscribed to DSTV and GoTV. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. IEBC Commissioners Wafula Chebukati, Abdigali and Boya Molu say they have no regrets in how they managed the affairs of the polls body IEBC during their 6-year tenure, which comes to a close today. The commissioners say that they had done their constitutional duty and delivered one of the most transparent elections. Chebukati acknowledged that the commission recorded the highest cases of interference in the August 2022 elections perpetrated by state agencies.
The 2022 general elections witnessed probably the gravest attempts to usurp the independence of the Commission and the sovereign will of the people of Kenya as expressed in the polls. These attempts took the form of ethnic profiling and open threatening of some members of the Commission and staff, arrest and holding communicate of Commission staff and service providers without lawful basis, abduction and illegal detention of staff and service providers by state security.
IEBC Commissioner Abdigili on his part expressed how worried they were after receiving threats just a few days after the announcement of the results of the presidential polls in the bombers of Kenya. Commissioner Boyamolo reiterated that there is need for Parliament to delink party politics when selecting commissioners fit to run IEBC.
Parliament, as you vet commissioners, please ensure the commission is not populated by political stooges. This is a national commission. It is not a place for political rewards.
And I wish to thank the Bombers Choir. Even when objects were flying left, right, center, some of those objects actually injured us physically. The choir kept on singing. I recall going into Siberia in my own country together with Commissioner Molu and CEO Marjan. We went into hiding to a unknown location.
The terms of service for Boyamolo, Professor Abdigili and Chairperson Fula Chebukati come to an end today at the IEBC. Now, the High Court has directed the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission to deliver all electoral materials from Wajir West, Eldas and Wajir East constituencies within 7 days for scrutiny. This is so the court can determine a petition filed by Hassan Aden Mohammed of the Jubilee Party challenging the election of Governor Ahmed Abdullahi of ODM in the 2022 general election. High Court Judge George Ndulu ordered the materials be produced for scrutiny and verification. Let's talk about matters education, where junior secondary school students in public schools will not be required to pay school fees. Education CS Ezekiel Machogu says the government will instead cover the tuition fees for public schools to a tune of 15,000 shillings per student. At the same time, the Ministry of Education has asked schools to select different uniforms for the grade 7 students. Junior secondary schools will open on the 30th of this month for the first term of the academic year.
At this particular level, because it is secondary, the uniform will not be the same, and each and every board of management will be able to make a decision as to the color and the type of uniform that students will be required to put on. And of course, as is the case, parents will have to bear the responsibility of buying uniforms for their children.
Machogu also said that all candidates who sat the KCPE exams last year have been placed in secondary schools, adding that those who scored 400 marks and above will join national schools. The CS warned the head teachers against asking parents to pay extra fees or ask for extra requirements for students joining Form 1.
Parents whose children are enrolled in public day secondary schools should not be charged any fees, because the government is catering for all their tuition costs amounting to Kenya shillings 22,244. Parents should report instance of any student turned away for not paying higher fees and other levies to the nearest education office for action.
And LGBTQ activist Edwin Chiloba will be buried today at their home in Sedgoit Village, Elgeyo Marakwet County. The body will be removed from Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital morgue this morning and ferried home for burial. His cousin Gladys Chiri said burial plans had been finalized and the family will be at the morgue by 8 a.m. for collection. Chiloba was found murdered and his body stashed in a metal box which was dumped at the outskirts of Eldoret town. 5 suspects are being held by the police in connection with the murder and will be presented in court on the 31st of this month. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, a few minutes after 7 o'clock, and looks like traffic is building up on the Thika Superhighway, that's for sure. Coming in from that junction at the move towards Outer Ring, it's heavy as you get out towards Survey. And we're looking at bumper to bumper all the way out towards Muthaiga Square, which is where you will now connect with Kiambu Road. All right, so folks are using the service lane. There's an option for you as you're coming into the city. Let's also look at what's happening on the other side of things. There will be some traffic as you're coming over that Imara Drift on Mombasa Road. That construction continues. Folks were doing something early this morning. Let's see what the rest of the morning pans out to be. Coming out of Westlands also looks like it's gearing up to be a busy morning. We're looking at some traffic coming out of Kikuyu, heading out then towards It's called what? There's can get me. Thank you very much. Thanks for your help. So that's why we're looking at some traffic this morning. Let's keep an eye on things as you come towards traffic hour at 7:30. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 7. Good morning and welcome to the second hour of the Situation Room. Happy Tuesday. It's the 17th day of 2023. Yes, so yesterday we saw the announcement of the selection, the result of the selection for secondary schools. So when are people reporting to secondary school?
Between the 1st and 13th of February.
1st and 13th of February.
Yes.
This is secondary. Okay? Secondary has school fees. What Machogu said is do not charge school fees in day grade 7. But kwenda ile ingine, iko school fees. And we can give you school fees.
Yes, so I know the school fees is an issue for a lot of folks. So Step Up and Shine with Kiwi even got into this before, folks went on the break. Walk into any supermarket today, buy your Kiwi black polish in whatever size tin. And then under the lid, as you've made your purchase, is a code. You will dial *459 *5#. Send that code. Immediately you can get airtime or bundles. And then you also enter into the draw that could win you 35,000 shillings in school fees. Who doesn't want to do that?
I wonder. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yep.
What kind of person are they?
Wow.
How many winners every week?
One winner every week.
For 35,000 shillings.
Yes.
For how long?
Until the 7th of February.
It's around the same period
So
when
about
schools...
about 36 winners. Yeah.
Those are many.
It is. It's going to help 36 people, 36 families.
And it's not 35,000
students.
divided by 6. It's 35,000 for every winner.
Yes.
Times 6.
Times 6. Lots of money.
Lot of money.
Lot
It's a lot of money.
210,000 shillings in total.
Yes. We have a guest in the studio. We have a hero in the studio. Her name is Nelly Cheboi. Before we welcome her, let her hear the day's proverb. CT has traveled to the country of Mozambique and come back by boat.
Yes. Mozambique, known to those speakers of the Kiswahili language as Msumbiji. The capital is a place called Maputo. They even have a president.
Have a president?
Yes, they do. The country has a president. Okay? Filipe Nyusi. That is the name of the president of Mozambique. Every time we talk about a country, we talk about some of the fundamental features. Now, Mozambique has something that is very unique and very, 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 very lucrative.
Okay.
It's called natural gas. It has it in plenty. Plenty.
Who doesn't have natural gas?
No. I'm not talking about what accumulates in your stomach when you eat something that disagrees with you. That's not what I'm talking about. No. I'm talking about the variety that people use for cooking.
Oh,
the
for energy purposes.
That Europe is having a problem with since the Russian-Ukraine war, since Russia invaded Ukraine, etc., etc., etc. That gas.
That one.
That gas, my friend.
Way.
And
they also have plenty of tuna.
Yes, they do. The tuna here is fish.
Thanks.
Yes.
Tuna.
Right. Do not try to fight a lion if you are not one yourself.
Do not try to fight a lion if you're not one yourself.
Yes.
Choose your battles.
Carefully. And choose the ones that you're most likely to win.
Shindana na mtu size yako.
Yes.
Mimi si rika yako. That's basically it.
Tafuta rika yako and
Tafuta rika yako, kacheze nayo. Yes. Nelly Cheboi is our guest this morning. Nelly is the founder and CEO of Techlit Africa. She is also the 2022 CNN Hero of the Year. And when we saw the news, everybody in the country celebrated, being led by the president himself. Nelly is in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante.
We start now by, first of all, congratulating you for that win and for celebrating you with the applause. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Ngoja makofi, kumbe kuna makofi hapa.
Iko. Hujasikia?
Oh.
Kila mtu amesikia. Apart from
wewe.
Kumbe nachoma.
Apart from wewe. Tell us, Nelly, what is Techlit Africa?
Okay. So Techlit Africa teaches digital skills in rural primary schools. So like right now, our 5th graders are building websites, right? And they're building websites. And so the idea is that there's so many opportunities online. If you know how to code, or even not, if you're a social media marketer, whatever it is, you can get a job online, right? Or you can work remotely for companies all over the world. And so what we're doing is we're preparing kids for that future. So right now, our kids are building websites, and some of our teachers are actually working remotely for companies in California from Mogotio.
Okay, we will come back there. How did you get to that Techlit Africa story? What led you there?
I think just growing up in Mogotio and seeing poverty firsthand, I just became really motivated to think about sustainable solutions towards poverty, and really inspired by my mom, because she can barely read and write. She only made it to class 6, right? And she is a mother of 4 girls. And so it's hard. It really is hard. Like she was like going all the way to Uganda, going all to Tangul Bay, alikuwa anafanya uchuruzi. And so for me, just seeing how driven she was to educate us, especially when people are telling, uzuri uko na wasichana, tafata kunua shamba. So seeing that, I really wanted her to catch a break. That's what I really want. I was like, you just deserve a break. And so I helped her at the Kibanda. I helped her with so many things, but I also studied very hard in school. Because I believe that.
What school did you go to?
I went to Mogotio Primary, which is
First of all, where's Mogotio?
Hey.
Not every Kenyan knows.
Mogotio is like...
I know where Mogotio is myself. But
yeah, Mogotio is on your way to Marigat, on your way to Lake Baringo. So when you've taken trips to Lake Baringo and Bogoria and Kabarnet, Mogotio is one of the towns on the way there. It's 40 minutes, 1 hour from Nakuru.
What is it famous for?
Nelly Cheboi and Saiso.
And Saiso.
Yes. Kona Makonge.
And the goat auction.
Yes.
We have really good goat meat.
There was a famous goat auction.
Very famous.
It used to take place, led by the president himself. Would go there and buy a couple of goats.
Yeah.
Former President Daniel Arap Moi.
Maybe more than a couple.
A couple, but I mean in hundreds.
A couple hundreds.
So you went to Mogotio Primary School.
Yeah.
And then where did you go to for secondary school?
So Mogotio Primary School, what was really cool is that I was the top girl in Koibatek district back then. And it's also very impressive because we did not have maftata. Like I used to go and study at Mogotio Hospital by the veranda there until like midnight, which is not safe for a girl. And so getting, being the top girl in the district from that, public primary school, such a huge win. And then from there I went to Mary Hill Girls. So now in Thika.
So Mary Hill Girls all the way in Thika.
Yeah.
Was it your first time to come to Nairobi and then head on to Thika?
Yeah, kinda. Yes, pretty much.
Okay. From Mary Hill?
Yeah, from Mary Hill, Nikomoka. I just went to America. Nikapanda ndege.
Okay, so maybe a little bit more of the process. So after high school, what then was your progression? Because look, this is the thing. Right off the bat, you talk about the fact that younger girls, underprivileged, disadvantaged for whatever reason, listening to you, seeing what may have happened, want to understand, what exactly did you do? Did you do something special, ordained by heaven? Was there something special about you? Was there something that you did specifically that would get you to that point whereby then you were able to help out? So what was that transition from high school, Mary Hills, you finished, what next, and how did that come about?
Yeah. I think for me, it's like I've had this so much drive, and I want to talk about my mom. Like I have so much drive and hunger for just like a much better life. Like I think for me, I really knew poverty, and I think what is the hardest part about poverty? When I think about it, I think about the mama mbogas, the women who are in kibandas, who are there for decades. And actually what is very sad about it is that these women, once you become a mom, most of them are actually teenage moms, right? Once you become a mom, you are stripped of your identity. You become mama somebody. So my mom was Mama Kosi, right? You become mama somebody, and that's all you do, right? Like nobody knows your name, but yet you're working really hard. You're showing up every day. And the lack of upward mobility, I think that's the saddest thing about poverty, is that it's not, yes, like there's the normal things where you don't have food, you don't have school fees, but when you show up every day, when the most hardworking people in our community are showing up every day, and the life is still the same, no ends in sight, that's what I think about. And so for me, I saw that and I knew that, and so for me it was more like I have to do everything in my being. Whatever the situation is, if I'm in primary school, I'm going to study by the kibanda. If I'm constantly sent home from Mary Hill Girls, because I could not afford tuition. I could not afford tuition.
This happened?
All the time. I was constantly sent home. I used to go home a lot. And then I'll just study on the matatu, kwa kibanda, I'm catching up on my assignments, I'm studying notes. So for me, it was like, I've seen poverty, and it's like I have to do everything in my being to fight it. And so every step of the way that I've been through my life has just been fighting it. I've gotten bigger platforms now, like I think just by sheer luck and also just like opportunities, but it has always been that. So when you ask like if I had anything, I think for me it's just understanding my situation, understanding that mediocrity is not an option, because this is, the cycle is just keeps going on. And so when I graduated from Mary Hill Girls, I got an A of 82 points. I got an A in everything, like math, physics, geography. Kiswahili nilipata 2 B+. So I just like I was like, okay, I have an A, but then I was just like out there in the village. Mimi ni Nelly nimepata A. Mimi ni Nelly nimepata A. Just a market at heart.
Right.
I think it's just like, because I was like, okay, yes, I've got an A. It doesn't mean like everything will come towards me. Not all of this will come to me. So I was just like talking about my, like what my vision is. I got an A. My sibling used to make fun of me. But anyway, someone heard about it.
Right.
Like,
somebody heard the noise.
Kuna program called Zawadi Africa, which is founded by Susan Boyer. Zawadi Africa take women from from humble background, really ambitious women, and help them to apply to scholarships in the US. There are about like 500 of us right now, which is really cool. And so, yeah, I joined Zawadi Africa. I applied. I got to Zawadi Africa. And Zawadi Africa, you're spending a whole year learning about ACTs, learning about how to apply to scholarships in the US. And so through Zawadi Africa is when I got a scholarship. And it was and then when I got a scholarship, I didn't even have a passport, I didn't even have an air ticket. Nikaendelea tu, mimi ni Nelly naenda ngambo, sina passport.
Nice.
Right? Yeah. And then my MP Ellen Sambili helped with that. Nikaendelea tu, mimi ni Nelly niko na passport, sina air ticket. Then I met Raila. So it's just like, I think it was more like, I think something that really helped me is knowing that you don't just get things. Not even if you deserve a better life. Every kid in Kenya, like people living in poverty, deserve a better life, right? You don't just because I didn't get an A, I just did not. You just don't get things. You go for them. I mean, that's what I knew. It's like, just because I got an A, just because I got a scholarship, I could fail to go to America because I don't have an air ticket, right? I just wouldn't assume that just because I went to Mary Hill Girls, then everything is sorted, right? And when I got to America, it wasn't like, just because I'm in America, I've made it. It was more like, okay, how can I use any opportunities I have to empower my community?
Absolutely. So was it that finishing university, graduating from university, did that strike a chord in your head? What was it? That I want to be able to progress in my career, or I want to be able to come back and help girls and young people who are the way I was then. What struck that chord for you?
I think as I mentioned earlier, I think it's like for me, it was like I had the idea. It wasn't like fully formed, but I had ideas. So it's like, it just, like when you have ideas, like when you're trying to look for a yellow car, you'll see yellow cars everywhere.
Sure.
But if you're not, you won't even notice, right? So for me, it was always like, how do I empower my community? And so every chance I got, it was that. So when I got to America, I didn't even have to wait to graduate. Immediately, like when you go with, as a student in America, you can get a job. It's nothing fancy. You get like 20 hours a week to work. You make like $8 an hour, but then with taxes, you don't end up making a lot. And so for me, I got a job, and I was actually doing janitorial work, cleaning bathrooms, right? And so immediately, like, I saved all that money, and the first thing was to move my family out of poverty, get my mom to retire, and move out of the kibanda because she was still there. And so after I did that, so after 1 year, I flew to Gikomba. Gikomba was really fancy to me. I flew to Gikomba. I bought everything and moved my family out of poverty. And then I was like, okay, my family is good. So what do I do next? So right now, I'm a third year in college. I decided to build a school. Right? So I'm thinking about building a school. And I wanted to, because education really did a lot for me, right? Education moved me from so for me it was like I believed so much in education. I was like, okay, let me build a school and see if I can be part of an education movement in Kenya that actually teaches like other self-creative ways to make money. So for me it was like, how can you teach kids entrepreneurship? How can you teach them different things? Because there are no jobs in Kenya, right? Instead of someone graduating out of high school and then now what? They have to figure out life. So that was the idea I had. So I built a school. So I built a school, Zawadi Yetu, as a third year in college. And then I discovered computers.
How big was the school that you built?
Nothing fancy. It was like it was all like a rental. It was like four tiny rooms. But right now it's a gorofaine. It has grown so much.
So when you started, were you starting it as a secondary school or primary school?
No, as a primary school.
ECD.
Yeah, it was like it's a nursery school, and then we started adding more classes.
All right.
But for me, it was like if I have a school, I can start teaching entrepreneurship skills, and so I did not know anything about tech. I was from Ogote. Yes, I saw computers in cyber, but I didn't even know how to type.
What were you studying in America?
In where?
What were you studying in university?
So it's a whole different story. I grew up wanting to be a pilot. Like I was like, I want to be a pilot. I want to fly. And so when I flew for the first time to America, I was like, Astakio. So when I got to America, I was so lost. I had no idea what to do because it's like, you kind of get who I am, right? I have an idea. I'm so driven. Even when I wanted to be a pilot in Mogotio, I was always asking, najua pilot. So until I met someone who knows someone in the army who may know a pilot. That kind of, like, that's how far I went. And so when I got to America, it was really hard. And I really struggled finding, doing the right course. So I thought about being a doctor. But then they have this thing called a cadaver room where you...
Yes.
And then so I tried a few things, and then I landed on chemistry. I was doing chemistry, I think, just because I was good at it. Like I was good at chemistry in high school, but I didn't really feel anything about it. And so I stumbled upon computer science as a third year in college. Like I did not know anything. Like coming from Ogote, I did not know anything about the tech world, software engineering. I didn't even have a Facebook account like back when Facebook was cool. Like I remember when I went to Mary Hill Girls and someone told me like, hey, open a Facebook account. So I went to the cyber. I sat there for 30 minutes. Ni 60 bob. Sijalipa mtu paka saa siko na hiyo pesa. Nikafungua Facebook account. And then I had like 10 friends. So I went back to school and I was like, hey, niko na Facebook account. I have so many friends.
10, yeah.
And I was like 10 friends. So I did not know. Even in Mary Hill, I was so far behind because these are kids from Nairobi. Mi niko tu hapo. So when I got to America, I did not know anything about the tech world until I stumbled upon software engineering as a third year in college, and everything made sense. Because I already built the school, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, I want these kids to be entrepreneurial, to be creative in making money, because you have to be creative when you graduate from high school in Kenya. There are no jobs, right? And so I was thinking, okay, I can do this. And so when I stumbled upon computer science in the tech world, I was like, oh, this is it. So I'm struggling. So I dropped my chemistry major. I got a computer science degree in 1 year. Like, I just got all the classes done as I'm building the school. And I was like, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach kids how to make money online. I'm going to teach people how to... And when people think about making money online, they think about academic writing.
Yes.
I don't mean that. No, I don't mean that. What I mean is Elise, who's a teacher of ours, being able to log in for a company, like joining, being an employee of corporate America, right? Having an email, having getting paid every month as an employee of an American company. So joining corporate America.
Doing what? What is Elisa doing?
Elisa is an account executive, right? Yeah. And but you can do anything. Like you can be a software engineer, you can be a marketer, you can be an accountant. So that's the one that I'm preparing the future for, is like I want them to be employees and digital natives to work remotely for these companies. There are other ways to make money online. There's Fiverr and there's Upwork, where you have a very specific skill, but that one is very competitive and is very flooded. That's another way to do it. But another thing to do is also building a brand, like going out there and building a brand. That also is very competitive. But so what we're preparing them is just like, wakwetu wafanyikazi. Like, so it's a lot simpler than you think. And then there's also like they could do machine work, machine learning. So some of our teachers right now are training to do online, to do like machine labeling. So Tesla like has these self-driving cars.
Yep.
And then so you have to train the machine, you have to train the computer, be like, hey, here on the stop sign. They're not that smart. The computers are smart in ways, but they're not smart in other things.
Hiyo ni paka inavuka bara.
Hiyo ni lori hapo, hiyo si mtu. So that kind of, it's called machine labeling and training. So in America, so most of these companies are incentivized to outsource their business operations. So right now they're outsourcing to India, Philippines, and so we want them to outsource this to rural Kenya. And so right now there's a company that we have partnered with, AI in Nakuru, that has employees working for Tesla. So 300 people are working for Tesla from Nakuru.
How does that happen? And how did you... This is the thing.
It's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. How does that happen that you have 300 people?
Oh, I don't. A partner of ours does.
Whomever.
Yeah.
Doesn't, I mean, look.
You open that door.
You open the
That's
door.
what's important.
This is the thing.
Yes.
That you have 300 people in Nakuru working for a company in the United States, working here, earning in foreign currency, but then living in Kenya.
Now on a passport.
I mean...
And that's the goal, bada. Yani wakule pesa zao alafu wajivinjari hapa. You know, home is very... that's the goal. Like, wasiende, wabaki tu home.
How do you get that to happen?
I think, so this is the thing. This is a... this is the thing. The jobs are there. The jobs are really there. And so, for example, I have a 4-storied community center, like the Zawadi, the building, the Gorofa, right? I built that working from Mugotia. I was working from Mugotia as a software engineer, you know. So I do Techlit, I run around with the kids and deal with all the stuff that goes running Techlit. And then at night, at 8 a.m., I go to my computer and I work as a software engineer. I was making 1 million a month doing that. And that's...
Stop it. Stop it.
Chokozi.
No.
You know, Nelly, the thing that I've been pondering over is, given your superbly excellent results, you had an MP. You have an MP. MPs have bursaries. The county government has bursaries.
Yeah.
Didn't they feature in your life at all?
I think we did apply to bursaries. We did. That's more like my mom. That's what probably like a story for mom to tell, because I was just a kid. You know, I was like 13. I'm going to. And then my mom is like running around and trying to get money. So I think that's like she would probably speak to that than I would.
I think your mom did the best she could.
Yeah.
There is no way you'd have been sent away from school if those bursaries worked, because that fees would have been paid. This is really what I'm getting at.
But do everyone get bursaries though?
People who do as well as you did should be at the very, very front line of those who receive bursaries. That's the whole thinking behind bursaries. A combination of somebody who comes from a background that is economically disadvantaged and is doing well. That's the purpose of having bursaries, so that this person doesn't lose out, that the situation they find themselves in doesn't hinder them from realizing the potential that they clearly and demonstratively have. But, yes.
Yeah, it's hard for me to speak to that because I wasn't really involved in the process. You know, I was just a kid needing to go to school. And my mom is the one hustling to get us tuition. Yeah.
So when you started Techlit, this was, let's say you started the school when you were still in university.
Yeah.
You got to third year, you discovered, Kumbe all along
Kumbe pesa iko.
my destiny is in
Hii pesa ni
tech.
kuchukua tu
Hii na pesa kwa hapa kwa barabara tunachukua. Nakota kama mawe. Naweka kwa mfuko. So you moved into that, and within a year you had graduated with the software engineering.
Yeah.
And you are now building your other school. At what point did you now decide, let me formalize this thing that I'm doing and call it Techlit?
So that's a very interesting thing, is that when I discovered, when I realized that you could actually just like make money online and like work remotely for this I think I should change that, work remotely for these companies. I was like, this is so neat. So what I thought about doing is like, and then another thing is that most of these companies, they're upgrading their IT like 3 to 5 years. These computers are going to waste. So the idea was, I was like, I'm going to bring these computers here and I'm going to show people. I'm going to download videos and I'm going to show people how to make money online. So right now, I'm building my career as a software engineer in Chicago. So I fly to Kenya in 2018. I bring the computers with me, and then I brought 10. And then I set it up in my school, right? And kujeni tuone. So then I am very ambitious. I'm thinking, the computers are here, the videos are here. People are just going to run with it, right? And so I go back to America because niko na kazi. And so I even form a WhatsApp group. I'm expecting like people to be like asking me questions. Like the youth that I set up in Mogotio, I was like, okay, ndo computer hapa tujifunze them to make money. This is very possible. But crickets, I don't hear anything, which made me like, it was very unsettling. I was like, wow, this is a really good idea. Why is it not working? And so I could not stay in America anymore. I was like, let's go see how to make this work, because it was such a very powerful idea. Like,
who was your target at that point? Was it?
I was working with youth because I was thinking that if I can train them
post-secondary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think if I can train them to make money online, if I can train them to work remotely for these companies, then poverty is solved. They earn the money, they lift their communities up. And so I kind of like officially like came back. I was like, okay, let's figure it out. Why didn't it not work? Like, why were people not asking, taking advantage of this? And so in 2019, we came back. So Tyler and I came back to Kenya. He joined me to figure this one out, right? And so we started thinking about it. So initially we were for months.
Excuse me, who's Tyler?
Oh, Tyler is my partner, my boyfriend. Okay. We've been together for 6 years, and then we're also building Techlit together.
Okay.
Yeah. So we came to Kenya so we came 2018 together. We brought the computers and set it up. And then in 2019, we both quit our jobs and came to Mogotio and did that. And so it was very interesting because, okay, so we started with training them. Like, okay.
Wait.
You need to...
Let's take a break at that point. So you guys have come back to Kenya. You and Tyler now in Kenya.
Yeah.
You'll tell us more about that. Let's take a Minute Maid break, okay?
Sounds good.
Minute Maid is this juice that you see in front of you. That is apple. This is... tropical. What do you have? You have the mango. Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yangu imefunguliwa.
Usijali.
Ndio tukuwekee, you choose.
Make sure there's no
Zote zimefunguliwa. You take a peek. Inject some flavor into your life and into the morning, and as you take a break throughout the day. Yeah. You want to take a break? It's flavor.
Take a Minute Maid break and, just take a moment from the pressures of the day, and it will refresh you in any flavor, as you can see.
Unataka gani? Orange, tropical? Mango?
Kuna mango?
Ndio hii mango.
No.
Hii hapa ni mango. Konyo kidogo. Nelly Cheboi is the founder and CEO of Techlit Africa. She is CNN Hero of the Year 2022. She's a girl from Mogotio who tells us her story of how she left the country, went to the US, but as she was there, she was looking back at what she can do in Mogotio, and she has a lot to tell. Very inspirational story, isn't it? Keep it here for that. We'll be telling you more about it. And also remember, there is something called what? Showmax. You want to watch Arsenal beating Man United this weekend, and you want to know where you can watch it? You can watch it on Showmax. Just subscribe, and you get Showmax Pro. When you get Showmax Pro, you'll watch the game on your mobile device wherever you are, okay? And all you need is 2,100 shillings. That's all you need. 25 to 8. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
I know the sun is out in Nairobi at least. As you tembea, be careful. Manchester United are trying to sign anyone. Watch out where your children are. Please hide yourselves.
Sugar and spice.
I reached a point where suicide things were just going south completely. Something stopped me.
Nairobi.
Sunny conditions at 15 in Nairobi. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 14. It's cloudy at 13 in Nakuru, highs of 26 and lows of 11. And we'll see lows of 11 as well in Nyeri, where it's sunny, going to highs of 25. We'll see highs of 24 in a sunny Eldoret at 13. It's 26 and mostly sunny in Mombasa, highs of 32. We'll also see highs of 32 in a mostly cloudy Malindi at 27. It's 19 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 31. And we'll see highs of 30 in Kakamega, where it's sunny at 19. It's 17 and sunny in Kampala. We'll see highs of 31 in Dar es Salaam and 19 and mostly cloudy conditions in Johannesburg, going to highs of 29. And it's clear at 26 in Lagos. It'll go to highs of 34 and 29 will be the high in a cloudy Kinshasa at 24.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
Seems there's traffic all over the city. Well, let's look at traffic coming off of Ngong Road as you're heading into the city. It's going to come in and touch then on to Haile Selassie, and also traffic coming in the other way from Landis and then heading on to Kamkunji. The Thika Superhighway, heavy from the Outer Ring Junction, also heavy on Kiambu Road. And we're looking at this whole network of traffic well into United Nations Avenue, coming in through towards Limuru Road. Let's look on the other side of things, Lower Kabete, and then it's giving off from what's coming off of James Gishuru, Wayaki Way. All of that is a mishmash of traffic. Ring Road Westlands and all of this area, that looks really crazy. All right, let's look on this side of Mombasa Road, and we have some traffic coming over that Imara Drift. It's going to continue for some time. Outer Ring also looks busy as you're coming off North Airport Road. We are in the middle of traffic hour now. What's happening where you are? Hopefully you can keep it a safe day. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, CT Muga, and hero, Shujaa, Nelly Cheboi. What do we give her? Not CGH, okay, that one is taken by Ruto. EGH.
Okay, so I think that one is taken by Ruto.
So Nelly, you came back to the country. This is where we were. You and your boyfriend, you decide, let's actually focus on helping this youth to understand the potential that there is in tech.
Yeah.
Did you find out why they were not responsive in the first place?
I think so. Yeah, it was quite a struggle because so we come back in 2019. The computers are still there, you know, and so then I'm like, okay, let's figure out. Maybe they don't believe us that you can get a job online, that you can work remotely. So we find someone in Chicago to give us a job to build a website for them using WordPress, which is very simple to do. And so we're like, okay, let's actually pay them to do this job. So we're paying them 800 shillings an hour because that was like they're going great for how much the guy was paying us. But we did most of the work. Like we had the WordPress site ready. It's just like they're doing data entry. And then it came to a point where they were coming. And then if there was no, so the idea, like if you do any consultants, it was like, let's do a consultant. Let's actually just get them a job and then they can learn as they go. So if you do any consultancy, you wanna pay them to do the work. And then when there's no work, they're training. But then it came to a point where when we stopped like for a day or two to like, and then they just, they were not coming. Or when they come, they just watch YouTube videos. They were not training. They were not learning. And and I think it came back to the fundamental, like what was the biggest issue is that we were looking for digital natives, right? I think people in Nairobi will recognize this, right? Like they just like, you're online, you're sitting on a computer all the time, you're on your phone, but you're from Ushago, from the village, like you don't do that. Like maybe you do, but it's like, there's this idea of a digital native in that, like right now, if I ask a second year, like a Form 2. If I ask a Form 2 girl in Nairobi or even in Chicago, if I ask them, hey, do you want to get a job at Google? Or like more like, hey, go get a job at Google. They'll know how to do that, right? Even though they'll know like, okay, I need to go to LinkedIn and I need to find the recruiter, and then I need to find out, like, first of all, they'll ask themselves, if I want to work for Google, what job do I want to do? Do I want to be a marketer? Do I want to be a product? Do I want to be software engineering, right? And then they'll be able to go online and like, and find a recruiter, right? And also go to YouTube and learn how to be a software engineer. Whatever the skill they want to do, they can learn that. And then they're going to look YouTube videos like how to get a job at Google. Like they just by being themselves without any connections, they can do that because they're just submerged in information. There's so much information out there. That's what I think of a digital native is. And with our education system, with that just like, lack of computers and a very expensive internet, it gets really hard to build digital natives. And so for us, we were just thinking that, hey, let's just come and get the youth, like, let's get them like sit on a computer and learn a skill. Well, that's something they're not used to, which is the lack of digital nativity. So we realized after really trying for so long, we wanted to build digital natives. We wanted to be able to have someone who knew. If we tell them, hey, get a job at Google, they know how to do that. So then it was clear that we needed to go to schools and teach the kids instead. Like embed this as part of the education system instead of finding people who have left the education system and this skill is just too hard to acquire. Right.
So this is a private school that you're running? Or were you working with public schools as well?
Yeah, so people get really confused about that. So I'm going to clarify this. So I have 2 projects. Actually, I have 3 projects. Okay.
There could be 4, but let's do it 3.
Okay. I have 3 projects. My first project is Zawadi Yetu, named after Zawadi Africa, right? The program I went to America with.
Yeah.
What Zawadi Yetu tries to do is I want to see what it's like to be a kid in Ushago growing up with everything. That's what I want. I want you to have ballet. I want you to have a music studio. I want you to have a dance studio. I want you to just be a kid, which I did not have growing up. I was raising my little sister. So that is a testament of like, it's a very expensive, whatever dream, because it's costing me millions to just build that center. That's what I'm trying to do with Zawadi, right?
Okay.
So Zawadi right now, we have a music studio. We have a dance studio. Like our kids are constantly like, on Zoom calls with NASA, when people come to visit and they want to see a school. So they're exposed to the world right now, just being in Mogotio, in that community. We also have a hair school where women are coming in and learning how to braid hair. They graduate in 3 months. So Darling provides the inventory, and then I have the space. I have the real estate. So the women are coming and graduating. That is all Zawadi, right?
Okay.
It's a community center just trying to give everything to this community. Techlit Africa is a more scalable solution. Techlit Africa goes into existing schools, right? So right now we are in 15 schools. And we want to be in 100 schools, actually. We want to be in 100 schools by the end of this year. We want to be expanding to Uganda and Tanzania next year, right? We want to permeate the whole of rural Africa. What Techlit Africa does is it gets these computers that are going to Western America and puts them in schools. It's a computer lab in a school. And the kids are learning every day all these digital skills that they need, right, to be able to like get work remotely for these companies. And then my dad company is called Itabidi, and that is the one that is connecting people who are like already have the digital skills, connecting them to jobs, jobs in America,
right,
through our networks. Yeah.
Oftentimes when we see that folks are recognized around the world for what they've done, we see the impact that what they've done has had on the lives of people. And usually that's where the recognition comes from.
Yeah.
It's not that it's who Nelly has done, but what Nelly has been able to do has impacted the lives of others, right? What impact have you seen? What changes have you seen in the lives of other people? And it doesn't have to just be young people. It could be the older people whose children you've taken care of for an education. But what impact have you seen in the lives of people since you started all of this that probably contributed to the recognition?
I love that question. So I think like the most recent one is Bowen, who's in class 5 right now, who has the website hosted. If you go to bowen.techlitafrica.org, you'll see his website. And the interesting thing about this kid is that 2 months ago, we introduced HTML, which is what you use to build websites. And so we're just introducing HTML, and we're doing like, like just basic, like, oh, this is what a header is, a title is. Most of the class are doing that. But when then it's like, okay, if there's H1 and H2, so he keeps trying. Just from the pattern, it's like, okay, let me try H3, H4. It goes all the way to H7. And then he concludes like, oh, okay, so H1's right. Like he was just like kind of like learning on his own. It's like, okay, because he doesn't have internet, just have a computer, he writes something and then see what's displayed on the browser. So he learns how many H tags are there, right? And then he goes home and he's like thinking about building a website on a piece of paper, on his exercise book, because he doesn't have a computer, right? So he writes like, okay, H1, he writes it because he remembers that, and then he writes some things. And then he thinks like what else can I write? Like paragraph, and then often like he will ask his sister, hey, can I borrow your phone? And then goes to YouTube and say Visual Studio Code HTML, looks up some of the things, and then continues writing. 3 days after introducing HTML to the class and teaching the kids, like we're teaching so many kids, right? He comes to school with 3 pages of HTML code. He has sat down at home. Like,
how old is this guy?
He's in class 5.
He's 11 years old.
I don't know how old he is.
Yeah,
but
he's 11 years
class
old.
5, yeah? So he's coming to school with unwritten HTML code for 3 pages, and then he transcribes it slowly. It's really cute. Like he saw me typing one day and I was like, kosi mini mamua. The type kama wewe. So we call that touch typing. So he's learning touch typing too. And then and so he builds the website, and then so another thing that is goes hand in hand with building website is CSS, which is like you wanna design your website, the colors, the background, in like all this stuff. It's CSS. So we were struggling thinking about how to introduce CSS to the kids. HTML seemed easy because like what they were doing in Word document, they could just transfer that. Like a header is H1, like a title is whatever title tag. So it's very easy. So we were kind of like crazy. How do we teach CSS? And then he comes to school the next day, and we see his website. There's some colors, right? He has some colors in it. And then we ask him, hey, how did you get color on this? He's like, oh, my website was ugly, so I went home and I went to YouTube and say, make my website beautiful. And then I read what they did and I wrote it down and I tried it and it works. So he had done CSS for himself, and then he was going around in the whole class teaching how to do CSS. So we had to come up with a CSS curriculum. If you go to his website, you'll see that when he does different things, he actually has little code of snippets below to show you how to do that.
To do them.
Right. So right now, and it was the cutest thing. So right now, but when I was named the CNN Hero of the Year, he sends me an email. It's like, hi, Kosi, it's me, Bowen, congratulations. And like, he has the title, he has the formatting, which is really cool because I feel like most of our youth don't even know how to send an email, which is like one of the fundamental things that you need to do for build. So that kid is ready for a job. We just need him to turn 18.
I'm looking at his website, bowen.techlitafrica.org.
Yes.
I am Bowen from Mogotio. Welcome to my website. I want to be a software engineer. I have been learning coding at my school through the help of Techlit Africa. Below are some of my projects. I'll keep adding more. The first one is a flex puzzle that I made to teach you to flex CSS. It puts in 4 trophies there. Interactive flex tutorial.
Yeah, if you click on that, it will take you around.
Ordered and unordered lists. Interactive border.
Right.
So I think seeing that, it's just, for me, I did not. When I was his age, I didn't even know what a computer was, right? I struggled to become a software engineer. Like in America, I really struggled with my assignments. I could not type. I had no idea how to do. I had to learn how to become a digital native. I had to learn that, as a youth, right? And so for me to see him doing all these things, like even if you go to TikTok, we also record TikToks of them describing what they did. He's on TikTok too. He's describing. So he's ready. He knows how to build a brand. He knows how to market himself. He has a skill. He knows how to look up tutorials on YouTube and learn from them.
How can this be scaled in the public sector? So there are several things. Number one, the government is very keen on having a digital economy. Not the first time we've had this. For the last 20 or so years, we've been
The
hearing
government is
government
very
saying
keen
this.
on talking about wanting a digital economy.
You're very critical. I see that.
Yeah, but you see, everything you've told us so far is accompanied by what you've done. So it's not just a story. You're walking us through things that have happened and we can see. They are visible. Others have also
some of them
seen
done
it.
remotely.
Yes. So, again, Eric, pardon for interrupting you. Continue with what the government has continued saying. Yes, go on.
Yes, I like that.
Keen on that. There's a state department that is in charge of this. We have an education sector and all this. What do you think from where you sit? What needs to happen to scale this, to move it to all schools in the country, to make sure that all children like Bowen become digital natives?
So right now we have, I'm going to tell you this. We have enough computers in Mogocho right now to reach to 50 schools. I can easily get the computers to get to 100 schools. So our goal to get to 100 schools is not limited by the resource. The way we work, we have these computers, we're bringing it to the community, right? We train people from the community. We train them. Later.
You need a minute maid break.
Okay, so the way we work is that we have enough computers in in Mogocho right now to get to 50 schools, right? When we go into a school, we get the youth who just finished high school or college, we train them, and the ones who are teaching in the classes every day. These are the same youth as we connect to jobs in America. Like Elisa is a teacher of ours. We saw that he can send the only thing he needed to be able to get this job is that he needed to send an email. He needed to know how to send an email because it's a really hard skill. Like our youth don't have that skill, for example. They really struggle. They don't know the difference between like LinkedIn post and a WhatsApp status. Like you can see them in online, like trolling in comments. Not like that, like actually being online, you're building a brand. You can use like the comments to build a brand or something like that. So we train the youth. They can get jobs online. They can work for these companies remotely where they teach in our classes. The only thing we ask from the schools is that they cover the cost of the teachers. That's all we ask. And that is a really hard sell. Right. So the computers are there. We are creating jobs for the community. We just need people to understand that
there's a small cost to this.
Yeah, there's a cost to this. And
but
actually
then,
the cost is 40,000 Kenya shillings
But
per
then
month.
now this is what I'm asking actually, Nelly. Now if your plan was to be taken up by government, it can be rolled out easily. What kind of things are these so that you only come in to plug into what the government is doing.
So I can speak a little bit to that. I think people are very critical of the who had an agenda to get the computers, like devices, like a laptop per child or something, like get devices to all the schools. Those devices are there. Those computers are they're there. If I go even to the schools in Ushago, the computers are there. But you know where they're in? They're in closets. Right. Because we didn't have the capacity. We didn't have the capacity to train the kids, like to train the teachers to run this, right? So the capacity is not there. And so I think most efforts with government, the problem with government mostly is the skill. It's very hard for government to just say, like what we get to do with Techlit. We start with one school, we go to 10, we go to 100, we go to 1,000. If a government is working like that, it will seem like discrimination. It will seem like ubaguzi, right? So government are really good at scale, right? But to get to scale, you need to have this.
You need
to grow slowly. You need to grow slowly.
Yeah.
So
there's something called piloting, and the government is very good at that as well.
Right. But it's like it's very easy because you're trying to think like how do we, like for us, we found that we can train the youth, and all that the youth need to do is to be in that class doing 8 classes a day. That's all they need to do, and then they're given targeted training to produce that. But I think like when you try to think, it's very hard for me. Like right now, if you ask me to like do 100 schools in Techlit, it seems already really hard. If you ask me to do 1,000, I have no idea, right? And so like I think for us, I think this works really well as a private sector because we have the lack or the opportunity to slowly grow, even if it looks like really quickly grow, to slowly grow and figure out the pains, the growing pains.
So there's no public pressure and expectation politically.
Yes, that is the problem. That is really the problem. That there's so much pressure. Like all these computers in all these schools are sitting in closets, right?
You see, Eric, the program this delightful Kenyan has, there's no politics attached to it. There's this thing that needs to be done, and it gets done.
And she decides.
Yes, and the focus is how do we continue getting it done? How do we expand it?
Yeah.
The moment you bring in the national perspective, it will sound really good. And then you start. Then the politics comes in. And that whole thing, Kwisha. You'll be talking about this initiative, which was started God knows when, and that'll be it, the history of it. Yes.
Well, I know for sure that the government, the Ministry of Education has piloted several things, programs using those free laptops. Right. Start, stop. Maybe the problem is the challenge of scaling.
Yes, scaling. Thinking about it at scale and then thinking about like the capacity. What a Techlit has come down to is those teachers, the youth that we train. So we work really hard on our hiring, on our training. They teach classes like from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then they come to training until 8 p.m. Like they're doing training like every single day. And so it's very exhaustive, right? And it's so the capacity, the people the teachers that need to be trained. And I also want to challenge this. When we think of the government, we think about the national government.
Yeah.
But the government, the government is us. Yeah. We're the taxpayers, right? For example, schools in America are free. Primary schools and high school. And you know how they pay for that? Property taxes, right? You have a house, you pay taxes on that, and that goes towards your school. And the reason that I'm saying that, so for us to scale Techlit, I'm asking the people, it's almost like a small tax collection, right? Yeah. I'm asking the people to jitegeme. If a school has 800 kids, the program costs us 40K per month, right? That is 50 shillings per month per kid, per parent. 50 shillings only, right? And so when we go and talk to the parents and the schools, they're like, oh, like our kids, like just the idea of like waiting for handouts, waiting. They're like, atafuta mzungu atusaidie na hizi vitu. But
Tuliona ulishinda CNN.
That is the discussions we need to have because I think to improve our society, to improve this, it actually comes from kujitegemea.
Yeah.
Tax collection, thinking about this. And so that's why for me, like most of my work that I do is calling head teachers and saying like, hey, you help us cover the cost of the program and we come in and we do the whole thing and your kids are going to be coding websites. And that continues to be our challenge.
Amazing. Nelly, you are so inspirational. Very many comments that have come in saying, people love how you speak, how you laugh. Your fire in your belly, your inspiration and everything. And congratulations for the global recognition. Yes, and it starts globally and then you come now to be recognized locally. Shame on us, but it's good enough. Well done, Nelly. So Nelly is a CNN hero, Nelly Cheboi, CNN Hero of the Year 2022. She is the founder of Techlit Africa. She is running 3 different programs from Mogotio, taking them to Kenya and then to East Africa, gradually Zawadi, Itabidi and Techlit. She's been doing quite a bit. Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour, where we'll also tell you about what some Kenyan researchers are doing to build capacity of research leaders in Kenya. Something also big happening. It's an inspirational Tuesday, I'm telling you. Yeah, remember, John Alan Namu returns this Sunday from 8 p.m. on Maisha Magic Plus. DSTV channel what? 162.
163.
163. And the other one is Go TV channel what? 8. Channel 8. And it's on Sunday at what time?
8 p.m.
It's now 8 a.m. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Kenya is exploring ways of increasing direct investments in technology, research in medicine, agriculture and other sectors from India to create more jobs and opportunities for the youth. Speaking when he received India's parliamentary delegation, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said Kenya has enjoyed long-standing ties with the Asian country and there is need to deepen trade ties for mutual benefit. Gachagua said the Kenyan embassy in New Delhi will be tasked with marketing the investment opportunities in Kenya, especially in technology, agriculture and other forms of innovation. And Chief Justice Martha Koome has hailed the adoption of technology by the courts, terming it revolutionary. Koome, who is also the president of the Supreme Court, says the judiciary aims to advance on the gains made thus far. The CJ said the judiciary will continue to embrace technology for easy access to justice. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja has ordered an audit of the 21 billion shillings pending legal fees inherited from the previous administrations. In a Gazette notice, Sakaja has established a committee that will carry out the audit with firm instructions to submit a report in 3 months. The 13-member committee will be chaired by lawyer Kamodho Waiganjo. Legal payments from City Hall has been in the spotlight, attracting investigation agencies. The Nairobi County Boss has assured that the pending bills will be audited to reveal the legit ones. And the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission says it recovered parcels of land worth 5.2 billion shillings from private individuals in the financial year 2021-2022. The Commission's chairperson, Eliud Bukala, says the 39 title deeds included parcels of land belonging to various public institutions for both national and county governments which had been grabbed in collusion with public officials. The title deeds were handed over to retired President Uhuru Kenyatta on April 4th, 2022. During the period, the agency completed 154 investigations on corruption and economic crime, and the files were forwarded to the Director of Public Prosecutions for review and action. The anti-graft body further averted the loss of 4 billion shillings after conducting 25 proactive investigations. And Milimani's senior principal magistrate Bernard Uchoi found Victor Odede Bwire guilty of conspiracy to blow up Kenyatta International Convention Center in January 2019. This was after a forensic analysis of phones in his possession showed that he had sent information on KICC security arrangement to a contact in Somalia known as Mohammed Yare Abdallah. Bwire was charged together with others of conspiring to commit an act of terror at KICC. The magistrate said the prosecution had proven its case against Bwire.
Charge had been proved as an overt act had taken place, that the accused had been instructed by his cousin Elgiva Bwire to open a Facebook account through which he could receive instructions, and this happened, and the accused put into motion the instructions on surveillance. He received payments for the same. The accused thus collected information on behalf of Mohammed Yar Abdallah for purposes of committing a terrorist act at KICC.
The accused will be sentenced on February 8th. Now, the construction of the Rironi-Mau Summit Road, a key artery to Western Kenya, may soon kick off following advanced talks between the Kenyan government and the main financier of the project, that is the French government. French ambassador to Kenya said the project remains a key pillar to the current and future engagements between the two countries. As a regional leader in trade, Kenya will next month play host to a delegation of French businessmen, companies and investors led by the French Trade Minister. And the number of murder cases reported in the media from Kisii is worrying. Hardly a day passes without someone losing their life prematurely. Speculations have been floated about the increasing moral decay in the region. Gusha Sub-County Probation Officer Elijah Manga pointed out that drug abuse is the leading cause of rampant murder and suicide cases. However, he blamed society at large for turning a blind eye to the vice, claiming no one is willing to come out and condemn this bad habit. Omanga said Nyamache and Sameta sub-counties, both in Bobasi constituency, are leading in the number of murder cases in the county, adding that bang and illicit brews are the main drug abused. The probation officer singled out a case of a man who recently killed his 2 daughters with a machete. He said the murder suspect was intoxicated before committing the heinous act. And finally, the Kajiado County government has initiated measures to control the spread of the African armyworm in several parts of the county. According to a status report on African armyworm infestation in the county, the pest was first reported in Kajiado on December 17, 2022, in Kama and Poka locations in Kajiado East Sub-County, and since then, bands of the pest have also been reported in Kajiado South and Central Sub-Counties. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, so we're looking at traffic heavy on Jogo Road. Heading out into the city is still pretty heavy. Coming off Mombasa Road, as you get to that junction at the Nyeri National Stadium, it's going to take you out towards Uhuru Highway and slows down some. There's also traffic on Raila Odinga Way. It's pretty busy, touching on what's coming off of Langata Road, as well as some traffic that comes off heading out towards Westlands. The Thika Superhighway is still very busy, as well as Kiambu Road this morning. Holy Muru Road going out towards Kitisuru, Ruaka, that whole area coming to the city busy as well. Where are you this morning? Are you stuck in traffic? Let us know so that folks can avoid it. Find a good route. Let us know that as well. Getting through towards 8 o'clock and after. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
7 minutes after 8.
Is the
Good morning
Situation
and
Room.
thank you very much for keeping it locked on Spice FM across the country. We also live stream the show on YouTube and Facebook, as well as being on TV. This is the 17th of January 2023, counting down to the days when schools reopen and you need school fees.
Yes, you do. And Kiwi says, step up and shine with Kiwi. Walk into your supermarket this morning, buy a tin of the Kiwi Black Shoe Polish. And then you will send the code to *45*59, or rather *5#, and you get an opportunity to get bundles or airtime immediately, and thereafter you can enter into the draw that could see you win 35,000 shillings, giving that out until the 7th of February. So you still have a chance while you're doing your shopping, your school shopping, and you can think, okay, well, here's a chance for me to get school fees. Take that burden off yourself and step up and shine with Kiwi.
All right, we have a new guest in the studio. He's from the Camry Welcome Trust, those friends of ours who we visited in Kilifi last year. We will be talking about research and governance in Africa, developing research leaders across the continent. Before we welcome Professor Sam Kinyanjui, we want him to hear the day's proverb. City,
yes,
from the honors.
Yes, from the country of Mozambique. Do not try to fight a lion if you are not one yourself.
Do not try to fight a lion if you're not one yourself.
Choose your battles carefully.
Carefully.
And if I may opine, choose the ones you know you can win.
Carefully as well. There's some rebel group that's been bringing issues to the people of Mozambique for a while. There's a lion called Paul Kagame. He sent his lions there to deal with those ones. Found, kumbe ni paka.
It's in the region of Capo Delgado.
Yes.
And you know, when we're talking about natural resources, the resource I mentioned, the natural gas,
yes,
it's found in plenty.
In Capo Delgado.
In that particular part. And the capacity they have, just wait for it. When I tell you the capacity, you'll be shocked. 4,200 billion cubic meters of natural gas. That is a lot of natural gas. A lot. So,
country is rich.
Well, I'm told that exportation to Europe has actually begun.
They have started, huh?
Yes, they have. So, when you see this sudden surge of interest that the Europeans, the Western world have on this continent, it is not out of the kindness of their heart. No. It's the abundance of our resources.
This is it.
Yes.
So those Al-Kebabs who are trying to harass them there.
Not Al-Kebab.
You said Al-Kebab.
Yeah,
you meant that.
They're Al-Kebabs.
Yeah.
Trying to harass them there, they'll go nowhere.
No, they will not.
Okay.
Yes.
Professor Sam Kinyanjui, He is the head of training and capacity building at Kemri Welcome Trust Program and also director of Ideal. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah.
It's Ideal, right?
Yeah, Ideal. Yes.
Okay, so let's start from there. Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
Thank you very much.
Good to have you here.
It's a
That
pleasure.
proverb, do you relate?
Yes, to an extent. But also for us as researchers, our job is actually, to take on tough things, tough battles that have not been fought before. And there are many researchers who spend all their life trying to take on, although the lions we fight often look really tiny, in fact so tiny that we often can't even see them with our eyes, they often turn out to be really big lions. But that is our job, to spend our life fighting them, finding solutions to those. So I was about to add, don't enter into a fight that you can't, unless you've been listening to motivational speakers. And if there are people who need motivational speakers occasionally, he's scientist.
Okay.
Yeah.
But also, you see, you spend a lot of time upgrading yourself to be a lion, to be able to deal with those lions that you're dealing with, right?
Yes.
And that's what you do as the head of capacity building at Kemri Welcome Trust. So tell us about that. What exactly is your day job?
So maybe just to put it in context, the biggest challenge we have in Africa is our research capacity is still very low. And you can measure capacity in many different ways. Some of the ways are the more formal ones, where we look at how many publications, scientific publications coming out, how many patents are coming out, how many products are being developed. And by whichever measure you take, you will find that Africa, and Kenya included, lags behind considerably compared to other countries. Of course, we do have our day-to-day innovations, and I'm not saying that Africans are not making products, but you're talking of products that makes us economically competitive, products that you can apply across a wide range of populations, for example, public health interventions. And in those areas, we tend to lag behind. And part of the reason is not because we are not intellectually capable. We have extremely sharp people. We have seen the innovations that come out of Kenya, for example, M-Pesa and others, and out of Africa. The challenge is that we do not have structures and systems for training. Yes, we do have universities, but in many cases, they are not really meeting their mandate. That part of their mandate is research, and they are not meeting it well. So what we do at the Kemri Welcome to Research Program, and that is the department that I head, we have created a framework which we call the Attract, Train, Retain and Transform framework. The framework, we have schemes for attracting young Kenyans to research. A lot of young Kenyans don't even consider research as part of their career when they're thinking of their career options. And especially given what we tend to see, what we see money, we see entrepreneurs and all those sort of people. What are our role models? Often they don't get to see researchers. And if in the universities they also don't have a very vibrant research going on, that is never in their menu of options for careers.
It's never in their line of sight. You don't see researchers.
So at that Attract level, we have schemes. We start with school graduates and secondary school graduates, the top graduates in Kilifi County. We are focusing on Kilifi County in part because just of our capacity, and that is also where our largest campus is. But our hope is that we can expand, and we bring the top 10 students. They spend time with us 2 months. They just get exposure to the professional environment, but also get to hear about research. Not all of them go on to become researchers, but a number of them do change their university options and now opt for, career subjects that are more research oriented. We also have undergraduate attachments who again come and spend 2 months. They again get exposure to research. At the top of that, we have what used to be an internship program. It's now been converted to a postgraduate diploma in health research methods in conjunction with Pony University. And there what we focus on is that they come in, they have about 4 taught courses, but most of the work is getting experience and getting exposure to research. And one of the things that really changes in them, it's not so much the source of book knowledge, because they'll have had that at undergraduate. It's just becoming confident in understanding how research works. And for example, they'll sit in scientific meetings, and in our setup, they'll see a student asking a professor a question. And they start understanding that science is about asking questions. It's being confident to challenge what is known. So that is at the attracting level. And with that, we have been able to, and we normally have about 20 to 25 interns every year. And most of them, out of about nearly 300 now, over 250 have ended up going on to do masters and PhD, because they now get attracted into the research career. At the training level, we have masters and PhD training. Now, we are not ourselves an accredited university, but we have the setup where people can do really high quality health research training. So we have people doing their masters, we have PhDs also doing their projects with us. At any one time, we have about 50 to 60 PhD students, about 30 to 40 master students embedded directly within our program, and on a day-to-day basis they come to our program, or they are maybe away working together with our collaborators. And the key thing there we focus on are 3 areas. We focus on the quality of training, supervision and mentorship, and exposure and giving also generic training such as leadership. We also focus on the training environment itself. So exposure to really high quality research infrastructure, exposure to a very multidisciplinary environment where they are not only learning their own things, but they get a very wide view. And an example is, you have had some of them come here to talk about, or in other radio stations, talk about their research. They get training about community and public engagement. The third area we focus on is support, living support, operational support. So all our students, including the ones who come at the secondary level, we try and give them a stipend. We will go out and source for funding so that we are able to include students from all parts of the country. We don't want a situation where only students from, say, Nairobi, Kilifi, or wherever, or higher socioeconomic status are the ones that we are training. We have people coming, students from Turkana all the way to Kwale and all the way to Isebania and Wajir. So we are very strong on inclusivity in terms of socioeconomic ability, but also in terms of gender. People are often shocked when they see the number of young, very eloquent, very good female scientists that we have. When we go, for example, to visit schools, the female students are surprised when they see, the people who are out there. And the other thing that we focus on is catching people young. The average age of our PhD students by graduation is about 30 years. In Kenya, generally people in their 40s. But that is when you're sharpest. Me, I'm past my sort of sharpness peak. These are the guys who are really producing. So that's that level. Then the next level, so I talked of attract, train, retain.
Retain now.
We want to retain those people we've trained. Some of them we retain in our program, but we don't have space to take up everybody. So we want to retain them in Kenya. We have schemes where we have a bit of funding to enable them go off into local universities. So if they go to the university or to another research center in Kenya and say, I need employment, they say, we don't have funding. They say, what about if I come with a year salary?
Right.
So then they are ready to take you in. So we are.
So the salary is being paid by the program.
By the program,
Can
yes.
we welcome trust
Yes,
program?
yes.
But the person is basically embedded in a different institution.
In a different institution.
Right.
And then also what you seek is matching funding. So if you say, we are going to give a year, are you going to give a year? And often people say, yeah, I'm happy to give a year. And that has allowed our PhD students and graduates to then transition very successfully to different research centers, both locally and internationally. So we are retaining them both locally, but there are those who will go international. We still have an angle of retention where they are doing research that is relevant to Africa. So we have retained them for Africa, even if physically they're not. For example, we have graduates who will go and do malaria research in Oxford. Many of you are familiar now with the Chaddock's vaccine. We have a number of people who have worked in the Jenner Institute. If they're working on issues or health challenges that are relevant to Africa, then we still consider them as retained. Because, to be honest, you can't retain every person. But we want to take advantage.
You have 50 to 60 masters and PhD students
at
any given time.
At any given time, we have 50 to 60 PhD students, another 40 master students, about 25 PhD students, and we'll have 10 also undergraduate attachments and 10 school leavers attachment scheme, the graduates, the O-level students.
That's quite a number. That's quite a number.
Remember when we went to Kilifi, we met a doctor who went through this scheme of yours right from school, Dr. Sophie Uyoga.
Yeah.
So the testimony, should we say the live testimony of how it is this program works is out there in the open for anyone who cares to see. But I wanted to ask this question. Yes, you're not an accredited university, but which universities do you collaborate with?
So we collaborate with a wide range of universities. We have collaborations with local universities. A good example is the PGD program. We collaborate very closely with Pwani University. They provide the accreditation, the quality control, the examination, the registration, and they have been extremely helpful in ensuring that all the bureaucratic aspects are all really well handled. And so our PhD students are probably one of the few PhD student schemes where people come in, do everything, and graduate within the year. And on the graduation day, they get their certificate. They actually go home with their certificate. Not many universities are able to do that. We also run 2 master's programs together with Pwani University. And again, among the few master's programs that people come and spend exactly 2 years and graduate and walk away with their master's certificates. We also collaborate with Nairobi University, especially in the area of pediatric diseases and clinical research. Again, we collaborate with Strathmore. We are running now a PhD program in healthcare management. As you know, a lot of in our profession, we tend to be promoted by our academic qualification rather than our managerial or leadership skills. And so one of the areas we are focusing on is mid-level health managers, and we are working together with Strathmore University on a PhD in healthcare management programs. So those are some of our local ones. Now, internationally, we collaborate very closely, obviously, with Oxford University, which is one of the partners of the Kemri Wellcome Research Program. We also collaborate with the Open University of the UK. And let me just clarify, because some people don't know about the Open University. This is not a virtual university. It's a university with a campus at Milton Keynes. It's a relatively highly ranked university in the UK. But what they have is a system where if you have all the capacity to train for PhD, but you don't have an accreditation, they can accredit you as though you are not, well, not accredit, because that's a bit more technical, but they can give you a status, what you call an affiliated research center. And once you are an ARC of the OU, you can train as though you are a campus of the OU, but they are very stringent. You have to give 6 monthly reports. They physically come and inspect all our books and everything, and all our systems. And many of our students are registered there. But we also have students registered in University of Cape Town, Wits. We have students registered in Amsterdam, Stockholm. We have strong collaborations with Warwick University and other many universities. So we do have a wide range. What is common is that because they are now familiar with our structures and systems for managing students, they have pretty much allowed us to do most of the things. So we recruit the students, we do the pre-registration assessments ourselves, we do the monitoring, the 6-monthly reports, at the end of the first year, all our students have to do a mini viva for them to continue. And we also organize for the thesis, and many of the defenses are actually done physically at the Kemri Welcome. But this is because we've been allowed by all these universities, including London School of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene and Oxford and others, because of the quality of the student management systems that we have put in place.
Do you have collaborations within the continent?
Yes, we do. We collaborate with the University of Ghana. We collaborate with WITS, with Cape Town. We collaborate with Makerere and also at Mbale. What is the university called in Mbale? The name jumps me. But yeah, so we do have a lot of collaboration. And those are the universities. But in terms of individual, all our students, especially from PhD level, have at least 2 to 3 supervisors. And mostly, you'll have one supervisor from the program, and you'll have a collaborating supervisor from across the continent, from across the world. The last I checked, we had over 150 individual collaborators who are core supervisors and core trainers and core mentors for our students.
There's a fourth aspect of the ATRR, which was after retain is reform. Is it?
Transform.
It's transform.
Yeah, and this is focusing more and more on having transformative leadership in research. And so we want to move from simply looking at training as imparting technical knowledge to imparting leadership capacities. And when you talk about research leaders, we are not just talking of people who are able to do a technical thing very well. We want to talk about people who can dictate the research agenda for Africa. You remember we've begun this session, you're talking about why do we have the West, why do we have the South, do we have everybody else being interested in Africa. And it is the case that because a lot of the funding coming to Africa for research actually comes from outside, there's always a risk, and it has happened, so I won't pretend, not necessarily with our program because we have developed very strong local direction, but you find that the research agenda is being dictated from elsewhere. So when you talk about developing research leaders, we want people who can dictate the research agenda for Africa, in Africa. And so what we talk about, call shifting the center of gravity for research for Africa to Africa. So it's not someone else doing our research. It's also about creating or generating graduates who have the status or the clout to negotiate with the funders, to negotiate with our local governments, to push for mainstreaming of research. So we want to transform the research space, if you like, by creating people with strong leadership capacities.
One of the things that you talked about before was that the challenge of not recognizing the importance of the role that research plays in countries. You know, beyond the university where the learning happens, beyond the training center, beyond Kemri. But looking at all the training that is taking place, looking at people then who are armed with a PhD by the time they're 35 and things like this, what do you think it would have in terms of impact on a country to have all of these individuals trained at this level? Yesterday, I think we saw another graduate from Kemri who just attained her PhD. Just things that we see like this. What impact would it have? Because unfortunately, I mean, as terrible as it sounds, somebody may say, well, okay, so really, what does research really do for us? Can we focus on other things? So can you shed some light on the importance of having this research in country and what it does?
So first, maybe I'll come from a slightly different angle and demystify research. Because often the reason people ask, what does research do for us? Is, and I often get asked, where you've been in research all those years, Prof. Now hujatengeneza dawa, because for them, you know, research is a product.
And something tangible.
And yes, of course, part of research is that we are trying to develop interventions, except that interventions are not only let me call them biologicals. They are not only the things we take or the things that are injected. And so when we talk about health research, for example, people tend to think about clinical research or biomedical research. So maybe allow me a minute or two to really expand the meaning of health research, because once I do that, people can start seeing all the other areas where we are having impact, although it is not evident. It's not packed in a small container where you'll open. So if you think about the reason a child dies in hospital or outside, there's a whole range of reasons why that happens. They may have gotten to the hospital, but they got to the hospital and there were no drugs. And the reason there were no drugs, either it's because the supply chain is broken. We have people who are studying what is the most efficient way of taking drugs to our facilities. And it may look obvious. It may look like just put them in a pickup and but remember, there is a cost to it, there are logistics and all that. So we have people who are looking at how you supply. That is still health research. That child may have died because the drugs were there, but the doctor wasn't available. And before we shout and say, those doctors are that way, you have to also appreciate he may be the only doctor. He's been working, or she may be the only doctor. She's been working 24 hours. They need to take a break.
They may be in theater.
They may be in theater. That is an aspect of human resource for health workers.
Yeah.
Again, there's a whole area of research there. How do we develop our human resource for health? You come back to the fact that this child may have arrived late. Why did they get there late? Because the roads are bad and they couldn't be brought to the hospital. Again, is the hospital placement in a place where it is easy? So we have people, again, who are looking at that whole area of how do you prioritize where access to care, where is care. For example, we have had a PhD student who has done one of the most high-resolution maps of all the health centers in Africa, and then using Google Maps showed where the roads are and all that. It was surprising. Many African governments didn't know where their own facilities are because the facilities are put there often for political reasons, for social reasons, without making consideration. So we have people who are doing all those sort of mapping of access. Again, and these are not people who came from biomedical. These are people who come from geography or engineering. We come back to the child. They came late because the mother delayed. Why did the mother delay? It could have been because of their level of education they didn't recognize. That education and health is a whole area. Or they recognize, but they simply couldn't afford to go to hospital at that point, so they waited to see whether the child will be well. You see, that's an economic issue.
Wow.
All they understood, they had the capacity, but they were not empowered. They had to wait for the husband to come and say, unaweza kupeleka mtoto hospitali. That is a gender and a social issue. Again, we have people who are studying gender and social. So the reason I've taken time to expound on all this, and finally, of course, they may have died because of the malaria itself, and it's because we don't have the medicine. We don't understand. There's a part of the biology we are still struggling. That is the biomedical scientist's work. So you can see that there's a whole range of people. The reason I explain that is that we are doing a lot of work in all those areas, and we are generating data and information that has been used to change policy, to inform prioritization on care. We have people who are working directly embedded within Ministry of Health, working on universal health coverage, working on informing, for example, funding and financing of health. And so we have had a lot of impact. But to give a simple practical example, when COVID happened, because of both the investment in human resource and training that we had, and also the cutting edge, biomedical infrastructure we had, we were pretty much the first institution to start doing testing. That's why you notice Kilifi seemed to have had a big spike of COVID. It sounded like everything is happening in Kilifi, but that's because we were the people who had the first capacity. Not only that, we even changed the protocols for testing COVID so that we're able to use much less reagent. Because remember that time there was a big challenge with reagents. We have also were the first really to start sequencing, looking at the variants, tearing down the virus so that we can see what variants are there. And we generally have been the leading institution on informing that progression. So as I said, but also we are practically have been again involved in examples in malaria interventions. We have we generated the seminal work that actually showed bed nets can prevent death, especially for children from malaria. And it is that work that led to policies that have been adopted by WHO. And we have a lot of examples where we've had impact. And unfortunately, I think sometimes we are not as but that's the nature of science. You don't go around beating.
You don't tell us what you do. So we're waiting for medicine.
Yeah.
We're waiting for you to tell us what medicine you've actually come up with. But Doc, let's take a break.
Yes.
At 25 minutes to 9.
Yeah.
Professor Sam Kinyanjui is the head of training and capacity building at the Kemri Welcome Trust Program and also director of IDEAL. You'll tell us what IDEAL then is after we take a break. We're talking about research and governance in Africa, insights from the initiative to develop research leaders for the continent. Tell him he's having some Keringet water, but also he had a choice of some Minute Maid juice. So we're taking a Minute Maid break. Tell him about Minute Maid. So the next time.
Indeed.
This is not Keringet. It's written Standard Charter. I didn't realize. No, Standard Group. I didn't realize you make water.
It's just an assisi.
Diversification.
Stick around a little bit longer. You might be shocked at what else you find. All right. So Minute Maid is giving you a Minute Maid break in different flavors from apple to mango to tropical. It's that time in the day when you take a minute and you say, all right, I need a refresher. And it could be that time where you take a sip of any of the variants that you get. It's a Minute Maid refreshing break.
And when you take that break and you want to get some entertainment so that you can forget for a bit what you've been doing and what you've been working on, you get Showmax. Showmax on your mobile device. If you actually get Showmax Mobile Pro, it's 1,050 per month. And what do you get? Access to all the best entertainment, from documentaries to series to movies to everything else. 23 to 9. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's time to step up and shine. Get instant airtime or data with every purchase of specifically marked tin of black kiwi polish. What do you need to do? Walk to your nearest store, buy a tin of kiwi black shoe polish, and once opened, find a unique code under the lid. Dial *459*5# and send the code to stand a chance to win 35,000 Kenya shilling school fees every week, courtesy of Kiwi. Step up and shine with Kiwi. Terms and conditions apply.
Sunny conditions at 17 in Nairobi, highs of 25 and lows of 14, and we'll see lows of 11 in a sunny Nakuru at 15, going to highs of 26. 25 will be the high in sunny Nyeri at 13, and it's 16 and sunny in Eldoret with highs of 24 and lows of 12. It's sunny at 28 in Mombasa, highs of 32, and we'll see highs of 32 as well in Malindi, where the sun is up at 28. It's 21 and sunny in Kisumu, 21 and sunny in Kakamega, 19 and sunny conditions in Kampala, going to highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 31 in a cloudy Dar es Salaam at 27. It's sunny at 20 in Johannesburg, going to highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 34 in a clear Lagos at 25. It's 23 and mostly cloudy in Kinshasa, highs of 29 and lows of 21.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, looking at traffic at a few minutes after 8:30, still continues in most parts of the city. It's heavy coming off Gong Road, and we're seeing this whole network of traffic coming out from Gong Road leading into the city and then out towards the Thika Superhighway, coming in from that survey junction. Also looking at Kiambu Road, busy as well. Limu Road also doing that thing. Ring Road Westlands, busy. Waiaki Way, it's taking off traffic from James Gishuru and it's heading out towards Lower Kabete. Really busy there. Spring Valley, that whole area, Kitisuru into Limuru Road, and then Ruaka. That is seeing some traffic today and it's moving along very, very slowly. Looking a little bit better on Mombasa Road. We're still looking at traffic coming off Jogo Road, then feeding onto Lunga Lunga and Likoni. It continues for most parts of the morning. I'm sure we'll see it slowing down after 9. We'll keep an eye on things. Let us know also what's going on where you are. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM
continues with Professor Sam Kinyanjui from Kemri Wellcome Trust Program and Director of IDEAL. What's IDEAL?
Well, IDEAL is the initiative to develop African research leaders. And really what it is, when we started the program back in 1989, one of the things that we set out to do was to build local research capacity. As I said, the program is a partnership between KEMRI, which is the Kenya Medical Research Institute, Oxford University, and the Wellcome Trust. The Wellcome Trust is a funding entity that funds research, animal and human health research across the world. But when we started, we didn't have dedicated funding or even a kind of dedicated platform. And a lot of the training then was if someone has a bit of money in their grant, they might train a master's student. If they have a bit more money, they might sponsor a PhD student. But we realized that you cannot really systematically build capacity if you're depending on this sort of ad hoc funding and without really systematic aim. And so we sat together, the then director, and tried to define or design a framework for systematic training, but one that will also enhance our capacity to train. And so we then got, we applied to the Wellcome Trust, and they gave us money specifically for capacity building. And this was then 8 million pounds, which was then added up to that to 12 million pounds. So about 1.5 billion shillings. And that framework that enables us now to have a systematic approach to building capacity is what we call IDEAL, the initiative to develop African research leaders. We subsequently got another 8 million pounds. So to date, having trained over almost 1,000 people, including about 120 PhD students, graduates, we have, invested about 3 billion Kenya shillings. And the reason I'm talking about the money is to emphasize the amount of investment the country needs to put in.
That's 3 B is not small change.
It's not small change, but on the other hand, if I look at a bit controversial, if you look at
of 3 trillion,
some of the scandals that come out, that is a change for some of those.
It's 2 billion a day.
Yeah, you didn't just say that.
So, and this is the thing. I mean, even as we say that it might sound humorous, but everybody's looking for a result.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is a result then that guarantees that somebody will see the importance in something.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
If you have been in the world, you already know why research is important.
Yeah.
But for somebody who is crunching the numbers, for somebody who's talking about policy from a government level, they want to see the results.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that we have seen as a result of what has already been happening with this funding that has come externally?
Yeah.
That somebody can then say, hold on a minute, perhaps we need to be a tad more serious about this thing.
Yeah.
We've talked about Abuja declarations until we're blue in the face, and in terms of what the recommendation is. What can we say that as a result of, in the 26 years that you have been in Kilifi, doing what you've done, what are some of the things that we have seen? Okay, this done, this done, that can show and say, look, guys, it is clear that we need to put a little bit more focus to this.
Yeah. So let me first say, if the last 2 years did not teach us anything about why countries need to invest in research, I don't know what will. Because as you notice very quickly, we were struggling for even the most basic things. We were struggling for medicines, we were struggling for PPEs, oxygen. We were struggling for oxygen, and we are waiting for other people. And yes, we can complain, and rightly so, about the iniquity of vaccine coverage or global distribution of vaccines and all that. But part of that just revealed our vulnerability to the vagaries of the medical interventions distribution system in the world. And as long as we remain in a situation where we are waiting on other people to do the basic research that generates, remember, even the Panadol you take is a product of research.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we fail to understand. Today, if you went to any pharmacy, there'll be maybe 1,000 different medical products, and each of those products you're seeing there has had to go through research, and that has been a product of long-term investment. So, if we are willing to remain subservient to everybody else with regards to health interventions, then that's fine. We need not invest. But if we want to become secure in terms of health, then we also have to invest in research. But to give you practical examples, and at the risk of repeating myself, I give you the example of bed nets. In the West, they don't have malaria, they don't have mosquitoes. There was no impetus to do research on a bed net. That is research that had to be done here. And Kilifi produced some of the seminal evidence that then pushed bed net adoption as one of the key malaria control tools. And even more importantly, not only did we provide evidence that they work, initially they were being given at a cost. And the argument was that if you do not sell, or if there's no cost, people will not value them. But then we showed that the problem with that, it creates a lot of inequity. And in fact, the poorest strata of the society, who needed the beds most, would remain exposed. And again, it's work done in Kilifi that really pushed for the free distribution of bed nets alongside with other maternal and child health services. And so that's an example where you're seeing a product. But as I explained, a lot of the output in research is often in terms of data that informs policy. For example, when you look at prioritization, you look at UHC, you look at all these areas, we have had extremely strong input in these areas. If you take the malaria treatment guidelines, the booklet that a doctor would be carrying in Kenya and in many parts of Africa, KEMRI as a whole and KEMRI Wellcome Trust have been major contributors. Probably about 30 to 40% of what is in there, those guidelines, have been a product of work and research done within KEMRI and KEMRI Wellcome Trust. So, and I'm using malaria as an example, but we diversify. We are looking at bacterial infections, pneumonia. We're informing the rollout of vaccines against pneumonia. We are currently looking at COVID vaccines that have been developed elsewhere, but that still need to be tested for the Kenyan population. So there's a lot that is happening. There's a lot of output. We work very directly and in many cases embedded within the Ministry of Health, and there's that appreciation of the work and the output that is coming from our programs.
Prof, do you get sometimes maybe frustrated the gap between research plus the government program implementers, and these are the same people who are like you, they have gone through the research, they've gone through, they understand this, and then the decision makers, who are the policy makers, who are the politicians, who are driven by something completely different. So you've come up with all these interventions. You agree with your counterparts at the ministries of health and the departments of health, but then the final decision is being made by somebody who is looking for what Ndu is asking for, something tangible, something that they'll go to the people and say, you see, I'm the one who brought this kind of program. But do you get that frustration in terms of all the work that you put in and it not being taken up?
Yes, it is, and it can be frustrating because you have to appreciate that a politician, as you say, has different interests. And one of their biggest interests is pleasing their voters so that they are voted the next round. So it can be frustrating. There are also other interests. There'll be social interests. There'll be, and so one has to be aware that the path from, and this is something that many times even our funders do not necessarily appreciate. The path from producing a result or even showing that the potential of a product to it being adopted for public health is very complex. And one has to be aware. It's not a simple line. It's not like in the morning I wake up, I have this good intervention, knock at the minister's office door, and they say, hey, this is great. There'll be a lot of other interests. There'll be commercial interest. There'll be, as we said, political interest, and they can be frustrating. And I want to give a simple example. We've known for now almost 100 years, clean water is a simple solution for diarrhea.
Yeah.
One of the biggest cause of death in young children is diarrhea. Why? Because they are not getting clean water. You don't need new research. And yet, to date, despite, I remember when I was young, we used to be told water for everybody, but the year 2000 was magical. Well, we still don't have water and clean water for everybody. So it is frustrating. We're doing our part, and I'm not saying that everybody in the ministry or the ministry is non-responsive, but yes, there are many interests that compete with our ability to implement.
Prof, let me ask this question, if I may.
Yeah.
Do you think that those involved in the research world, its complexities and all the wonderful things that the research world does, make in equal the same effort they apply in conducting research in getting people to understand what it is that they do?
Yeah, I would say it's like in any profession, there's a spectrum of people. There are people who primarily want to focus on doing their good science. And by their nature, part of the reason they are really good scientists is they have certain attributes that make them really good in that area, but not necessarily very good in another area. And then we have people who, on the other side, are a bit more on the next sort of, if you like, part of the spectrum, who are able to traverse between the complex science and the sort of ordinary or the public space. And part of what we have been doing a lot is trying to train all our scientists. And not all of them will become eloquent sort of speakers in general, but we try to train our scientists to become better at public and community engagement. I don't think that it's necessarily fair to demand that every single scientist has also to be the one to go and and broadcast what they are doing. But we try as much as possible, even those who are on that end of the spectrum where they are really just focusing on their science, to at least have certain level of capacity to communicate. But as I said, it's like in every profession. There are bankers who can barely tell you what they do. All they know is that they enter that bank and they do their thing. And if they were to try to explain to you, you would barely understand. And then there are people who are able to really explain, the knowledge brokers. So it's a spectrum.
You see why I mention it?
Yeah.
Our conversation in this country is often dominated by our politics. And part of the reason is because politicians are in our face daily.
Yes.
Either telling us things that can't work, trying to grow onions on the moon, or things like that. The things that we know probably wouldn't work. Now, I look at the emphasis that we have or we put in just the very concept of research in our institutions.
Yes.
And it doesn't take a first tier or even second tier position. It's one of those things you do to pass an exam and then you forget about it.
Yeah.
So the very concept and its importance is lost at a stage where if it was inculcated, what we're discussing now would be a lot easier. Because a lot more people, just by virtue of going through an education system, will have appreciated it. Now, it's within that perspective that I was asking my question. Yes.
And you're right that for a long time, scientists tended to be the sort of people who say, let my work speak for itself. But it's become evident that, unfortunately, the work can't speak louder than politics. So someone has to amplify the work. And that is why, if you notice, if you went 10 years back, you barely had scientists like me coming or going into studios like this.
Into a public space like
into
this.
A public space. And now there has been an increasing appreciation. So you're right, we do need to get more louder in amplifying the work that we are doing. And that trend has picked up. And now, for example, if you are applying for a grant, all research grants will always have one section, which is community and public engagement. And it's very interesting because we have had to learn. I have done a show in Ghetto Radio. Can you imagine trying to explain infection and COVID in Sheng?
Hey,
in infectingi. So but we have had to learn because of exactly what you're saying.
Indeed. You see, if something isn't understood, its importance will also not be understood fully. Okay?
True. Very true.
Now, the commercial world, I look at the aspects of research, and I look at how it is we talk about focus group discussions.
Yes.
It's a commercial concept, really.
Yes.
That commercial enterprises would get people to try and just figure out whether this product actually... Now, research has adopted it.
Yeah.
And it has produced sterling results.
Yeah.
Because people feel engaged.
Yeah.
They feel involved.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's an outcome, they know they're part of that outcome.
Yes.
Now, there's a question I want to ask. How does the research world get this particular aspect of our lives and its importance embedded in our educational curriculum? So that from a very, very, very early stage, you see, we're now talking coding and it's a big thing.
Yeah.
But even that coding will require research to improve on it. How do we get this into our curriculum so that people grow up understanding the importance of this particular discipline?
Of research?
Yes, research. Yes, research.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think part of, or rather what I see as our big challenge is the way education has been structured hitherto. And it has been predicated on you have an individual, lecturer, teacher, who has a lot of knowledge, and their job is to download the knowledge to the student. And the student's job is to retain as much as possible, and then when an exam is brought, to regurgitate it. And if they can do that, but you see, and in a sense, you can understand many years ago when books were not available to everybody, the resources were not available, the teacher or the lecturer, by virtue of their having been longer engaged, would have more of the educational resources. Both the physical resources, they have more access to books, but also they would have learned more. The student had no way of being cleverer than, or of having more knowledge than the lecturer. But today, my 11-year-old son can tell you everything about a rocket. Why? Because they'll just go on to Google. My job can no longer be to teach them how a rocket works. My job is to help them think. So, for example, if they're looking at some websites that are talking about rockets, how do they work out what is sensible, what is true, what is rational? So it's helping what we call develop critical thinking. And we will have to change. Our lecturers will have to change. Those yellow notes that they used to teach us from will have to change, because now knowledge has been democratized. It has been made accessible to everybody. And the only thing that we can really teach our students is critical. One is critical thinking. The second is synthesizing. You bring all this knowledge together. How does it help you develop a new thing? That is the question we should be now teaching our students. But we are still stuck, unfortunately, in our education system where it is someone dictating to you. But why are they dictating? I mean, these are things you can you can just
go and Google and
what
read.
They should be is challenging the mind. They should be saying, now that we have all these, go and put this together. How can you apply this to a problem X? How can you apply this to the energy problem we're having in Kenya? How can you apply this to the health problem we're having in Kenya? Because you already have the information. I don't need to come and download for you.
True. Yeah. Prof, you got a lot of passion, and this is evident.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for joining us and telling us what the work that you've been doing. I mean, that's the Ideal program is a fantastic program.
Thank you.
And yes, they may not recognize you, but we do.
Indeed. Thank you. And thank you for having me here.
Asante sana.
Yeah.
Professor Sam Kinyanjui is the head of training and capacity building at the Kemri Welcome Trust program, also director of Ideal. Say it again in full.
Initiative to develop African research leaders.
All right. That's it. Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. Very good morning to you. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The East Africa Community has called on all parties in the Democratic Republic of Congo to establish an immediate ceasefire, respect international law, and ensure the safety and security of civilians in order to enable a peaceful solution to the ongoing conflict. This following an attack on worshippers at a church in Kasindi Town, North Kivu, DRC, that resulted in the deaths and injuries of scores of worshippers on Sunday. In a statement, the EAC Secretary General Dr. Peter Mathuki conveyed EAC solidarity with President Felix Tshisekedi, the government, and the people of DRC. This as President William Ruto condemned the bomb attack on a church in North Kivu, Democratic Republic of Congo, and called for collective action against terrorism, which he said is a threat to international peace and security. The president condoled with the people of DRC and wished the injured a quick recovery. The Congolese military blamed the attack, where 39 people were injured, on the Allied Democratic Forces. A Kenyan suspected to be a member of the ADF has been arrested in connection with the attack. Now, Kenya is set to partner with the European Union to bolster local food production aimed at ensuring food and nutrition security in the country. The partnership was arrived at following talks between European Union envoy to Kenya and Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi, where the ambassador expressed their commitments towards supporting Kenya government's initiatives on food security following prolonged drought that saw reduced crop harvest and loss of livestock. The EU ambassador to Kenya said that the support will also be extended to local small-scale farmers to improve their incomes and food production. Other areas of collaboration highlighted in the meeting include training more youth on agriculture, mechanization on farming practices, and land digitization program. Now, the county staff games enter the second day today. Sports Ababu Namwamba explained the need for cooperation between the county and national governments in various fields of development, including sports.
Devolution is the jewel in the crown of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And in the architecture of that Constitution, the framers of the Constitution anticipated and expected collaboration and cooperation between the two levels of government. 48 separate but interdependent governments. And that is why, as the national government, we are very keen to work closely with all county governments to promote sports, to support our youth and the arts at all levels.
Chairman of the Committee Managing Sports and Culture, the Council of Governors, West Pokot Governor Simon Kachapin, said that sports can be used to reduce cases of sexual violence. Kisumu Governor Nyang' Nyong'o praised Kikoska Games, saying since its inception, there are enough signs that it has brought many benefits, including maintaining good leadership.
Since its inception, Kikoska has proved to be more than just games. It's a convergence of cultural diversity. Each year it brings together employees of the 47 counties as it has done today, and each year it keeps on solidifying our cultural diversity and our national unity and integration. Kikoska has also given the opportunity for county staff to exhibit their sporting talents and to unwind and benchmark on best management practices.
Now, Somalia's armed forces captured a strategic town that Al-Shabaab jihadists had held for more than a decade. Government forces, which have been waging a major offensive against the Al-Qaeda-linked group since the middle of last year, took control of Haradere without any fighting, according to government and army officials. Haradere is a port town 500 kilometers northeast of the capital Mogadishu in central Somalia and was a key supply route for Al-Shabaab, according to Deputy Telecommunications Minister Hussein Ahmed, who is one of several senior government officials embedded with the forces that advanced on Haradere, described it as a historic victory for the Somali people. In recent months, the army and local clan militia have retaken swathes of territory in the center of the country in an operation backed by US airstrikes and an African Union force. And security forces are searching for about 50 women kidnapped by suspected jihadists in insurgency hit northern Burkina Faso. More than 50 women were taken last week in an area under blockade by jihadist groups and dependent on food supplies from outside. Several women managed to escape and returned to their villages to raise the alarm. According to local officials, the army and civilian auxiliaries had carried out unsuccessful sweeps of the area. The landlocked West African country is one of the poorest and most volatile nations in the world. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, still heavy in the city. Coming off the Thika Superhighway, quite some. Moderate traffic is what we're looking at now. Let's look at coming out of Westlands, not too much of an issue. And this whole issue of inside the United Nations Avenue, coming out towards Limuru Road, still very, very heavy. Keeping an eye on that through the morning. Okay, what's happening in Westlands? Because it's still heavy on James Gishuru, out towards Waiakiri, and then crossing over to Red Hill Link Road, still very heavy traffic, and we're looking at a bumper-to-bumper situation. Coming off the Thika Superhighway as well, just now at Survey, at the Utali Drift, then heading out into the city, that is still heavy. So still in traffic hour in those areas, at least for now. Let's keep an eye on things. What's happening where you are? Tell us. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room,
7 minutes
the only way to start your day.
To the final hour of the Situation Room today. Happy Tuesday. If you're just joining us, welcome. You're never too late. It's the 17th day of January 2023. The Situation Room broadcasts every weekday morning on Spice FM from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. So during this news break, Ndu gave me a sweet.
And? You're feeling it. Now you know.
Sweet called Wimpy. The first time I ate a hamburger in the world was at Wimpy. Now they have sweets.
Don't worry. Tell everybody where I went.
Surely.
It's good, huh?
We have a new guest in the studio. He's an entrepreneur, he's a mentor, and he's a newly minted politician from Elgeyo Marakwet County, Tim Kipchumba. Before we welcome him, let him hear the day's proverb from Mozambique.
Yes, from Mozambique. Do not try to fight a lion if you are not one yourself.
Do not try to fight a lion if you're not one yourself. From the people of Mozambique.
From the people of Mozambique.
You said the president's called who? Nyusi.
It's called Filipe Nyusi.
Okay.
You didn't get a sweet yourself.
I didn't want to see.
I offered.
I was actually offered a seat.
But yeah, Tim recommended
and I declined.
But yeah, Tim to
And why is that?
He's sweet enough already. I will go to the comments section. I read a comment there. Just go to the comment section. Scroll down a little bit, just a little bit. There. Ada
White Lovelace.
There says, I've been missing your sweet sayings.
Sweetie Muga. Do you see now, Tim? You understand? He doesn't feel he needs to add to the overflowing fountain.
Sweet sayings.
Sweetness.
Let me just say I'm lost for words.
That's usually what happens when they flatter you.
Yes. I blush and then I get confused. Then I'm looking for words and I can't find any.
Tim, you should have been here on Friday.
What happened this Friday?
He was sweet looking.
This guy.
Tim,
Is it the fashion or what?
What is happening right now, Tim, is you are in the company of some youthful individuals who don't respect the elders. It's being demonstrated by these unwanted and unsolicited comments that they keep making. On that subject, I'm not lost for words.
You have very many things to say.
Yes.
Tim Kipchumba, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Happy New Year, man.
Thank you for having me, Eric.
Yeah,
Thank you.
good to have you on the show again.
This side of life.
This side of life. Let's start with that proverb. Do not do what with a lion if you're not what?
Do not try to fight a lion if you're not one yourself.
Yeah. You're a lion, man. You went and fought.
No, I think
kukaenda vile kulienda. That's what people say. Kukaenda vile kulienda. Tim Kipchumba was running for senator of Elgeyo-Marakwet County. He emerged as a runner-up after a spirited fight. So first was a nomination exercise for the UDA ticket, and then you went in now for the Kinyang'anyiro itself. Lessons from the field. This was your first time bringing your passion into politics, into wanting to lead in politics. You went and you had very many meetings. From the moment you thought, it's likely that Kipchumba Murkomen is going to join the cabinet, and therefore this seat is going to be vacant. You started having conversations with people and just listening to the ground. Take us through that. I mean, when you were listening to the ground, what were you hearing people say?
I think the resounding must have been a little over 400 meetings, Eric. 400 meetings, whether it's in rallies, whether it's in night meetings, whether it's in coffee, not coffee really, tea type of meetings, whether it's in small groups where you're planning, a little over 400, maybe more. But I think what is really resounding, I mean, across the county, there are separate conversations that were happening. Elgeyo-Marakwet County happens to have the second largest forest cover. And so, now we have the new Forest Act, which says, for you to take animals to the forest, you need to pay something small. It doesn't make sense at all to the people of Elgeyo-Marakwet because they feel like they're taking care of the forest.
They've been in this forest forever.
Ideally, getting pieces of wood or allowing the cows to go in shouldn't be paid for. In other parts like Mbobut, you have problems like titling, adjudication of titles, because for a very long time, land has not been adjudicated. There is no titles, so you can't really do much with your land. For the whole of Valley, whether it's from Kocholwo all the way to Endo, peace is resounding. And then water. If people could just get peace and water, they may never even need money, or rather, they may never even need anything else. So if they get peace, water, and roads,
that's it.
I mean, you might not as well have existed as Tim Kipchumba. If you talk about Leland, Kaviego, and all those places, you're looking at, what can we do to improve potato, whether it's seed variety. That is also true for, Kabiemit or parts where people are just worried about, can we secure good produce can we secure market for our potatoes? Can we secure, and then I think what was common across the whole county is just opportunities for young people, which was actually the premise for my campaign.
What is the translation for opportunities for young people? What do they mean?
In many cases, majority of people want a job. Majority of people. I mean, let's be honest. People would really like to get a break. They finished school. They've been at home for the last 8 years. They got a second class upper in college. Yes, they've been applying jobs here and there. Some of them are probably teachers. Yesterday, for instance, in Tambaj is one of the ward. Originally, my mom came from Tambaj. Tambaj, they are only recruiting 4 teachers, but they had 500 to 600 people come for just those 4 jobs.
500 to 600 people are qualified teachers.
All of them, not just qualified and have been waiting Some of them for as long as 10 years. Some people are about to retire before they get a break to get a job. But that's true for the whole country. I mean, it's really that. It's everyone is hungry for opportunity. And I think that's partly what inspired my race, is to say, could we expand opportunity by using legislation? Could government become a better servant of its own people by putting capital in the places where it's required, putting capital where it can spur innovation. It's really interesting, because if you look at, say, the country that is leading now in terms of number of startups that are listing in NASDAQ, apart from United States, is Israel. Little known, tiny country. But when you trace back and ask yourself why, it's traced it to some of the tribulations that Israel had. They couldn't go to places. They had to build this aviation industry. But eventually, the only reason they are number one is in receiving venture capital globally right now per capita. The amount of total capital, venture capital that goes to a country per capita is Israel, is because of the amount of money they themselves put in research and development. But that has a value, because the highest amount of one of the leading job creators is technology. For every one job created for technology, it's a software engineer, or programming, or an engineer, you create 5 more jobs. And they have a name for that in Nairobi. They call them tech bro, taxis. So when you see the tech bros, they probably earn something like 1 million shillings. But if they earn 1 million shillings, they pay their babas better. They pay their waitress better. They actually go to the dentist and check their teeth, so they can afford to actually go to the doctor. They create an additional 5 jobs.
They do manicures and pedicures.
But then that's the role of government, is that government can actually do something about expanding opportunity for its young people. So I think that's, I learned many things, but overall, I think it's just that everyone is hustling.
Sure.
And they want their life to be better.
I don't think it would be a useless venture to say how then you would have seen this happen had you been given the opportunity. It's not, because I think, just like you said, everything is a lesson. And so even for folks who maybe didn't grasp, how would it have happened, you being a senator of EMC?
No, to be honest, I'm grateful for the people of Elgeyo Marakwet County. I'm truly grateful. In the first round, I got 26,000, close to 27,000 votes. I only lost narrowly by 1,400 votes. And the UDA nominations had its own challenges, and everyone knows that, including the UDA and the president. The second round, I only lost narrowly by about 3,000 votes. We got more than 38,150 votes. I look at those votes.
You got 38,000?
150.
Those are very many votes.
And I don't look at them as votes. I look at them as prayers, as hopes, as aspirations. And so even when I finished and I lost, and it was a painful loss for me and my supporters, I still went around to just say thank you. Because there's nothing they could not have done. The people of Elgeyo Marakwet County already did everything they could have done. And so, what would I have done? That's a really interesting conversation. Interesting conversation. I think the first one is, for a very long time, Elgeyo Marakwet County has been marginalized. So one of the things I would have done a little bit is work with, this Kenya Kwanza government to expand the amount of money that goes, because right now they probably get about 700, 800 million more that they can put into development, probably expanded by at least the same amount. The other one, of course, is to push for peace, which is already, there are some things that are already happening. Just a week ago, actually, a day to the election, the government hired 400 national police reservists. And I thank Honorable Kindiki, but there are more things that can be done. Criminalizing cattle rustling and banditry, criminalizing it and making it even an act of terrorism. Because we've had more.
Are you saying it's not criminal?
Right now, it's not. So
cattle rustling is what?
It's criminal, but you can't really take someone to
You can't charge
you
them
have
with
to
cattle
charge them.
rustling.
Yes, you
It's
have to
theft.
charge them. Yeah, you have to charge them for theft, which is crazy because if you have 300 people massacred in the name of cattle rustling, it's no longer really.
It's not theft.
Cattle rustling.
Yeah.
It's more almost like terrorism.
Yeah.
It's not even almost. It is an act of terrorist activity. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Amze called Daniel and lost 2 of their babies, Form 3 and Class 8. They were gonna become candidates Form 4 and this year, and they were just killed. They were taken care of, fired, and they were shot, dead, and then he lost how many cattle? 77 cattle. He had paid school fees for all his kids throughout the years. Like that's a possibility. Like that's someone like that who's just lost 2 daughters, has lost 77 cows. That's all his livelihood. Like that's a lot of millions worth of value apart from the lives of his children. Now he has to deal with the loss of his children, and he has to deal with
loss of
the loss of all his livelihood actually, because you'll have more than 3-4 more babies. Suddenly you don't even know what to look forward to, and then he's lost hope. And so but also now to look also at legislation to compensate people like that. Post-election victims have been compensated, but none of those massacres have been compensated. And government has a responsibility. The primary responsibility of government is to protect lives and protect property. So at least even when in the past, when the government has been unable to at least look toward the possibility of compensating some of those. I mean, there are widows. There are widows. There are people without limbs. There are people without arms that you meet them, and their life will never be the same again. And it's not to their fault. You may not fault the government completely, but at least it's government's responsibility to take care of human life and property. So a side piece is to look at the existing legislation that were already there, but organize it. So local content act as possibility to create jobs. Eric and Du and Mugabe. Why? Because if you create a project like Aurora and Kimwarer Dam, ideally you want a significant portion of those jobs
to come from the locals.
At least 50%. That is a draft bill. It's not yet an act of parliament. That has real possibility, because if you spar FLOSPA, which was at its height, it was generating 4 billion Kenya shillings, which is almost what the county is receiving right now. A portion of that, just a small tiny portion of that, will go to the county, but then a significant portion of that will create local jobs. Whether it's a mango factory that is in Tot, whether it's in improving the seed variety for potatoes, because we are the number one leading potato producer in the country, number 1, number 2, including Elgeyo Marakwet County as one of the counties that can take advantage of potato produce and marketing bill, opportunities that can just at least expand incomes for farmers and jobs for young people, and more. Honestly, forest is down the Senate route. Looking at the possibility of saying, if we have the second largest forest cover in the country, how can forest be a resource for our people? Whether it's introducing a variation of shamba system, whether it's having community groups that can harvest forest sustainably. Can forest, for instance, be
climate
given
financing through your resource?
Mitigation, yes.
Or even influencing other parts of the country to emulate.
Exactly. So that forest actually starts to become valuable thing. So if you are giving licenses to people to harvest forest, you consider first locals, and even the way you do that, you do it in a more sustainable way. Allow people to do animal husbandry, especially because most of the time, right now, a lot of change has happened. Simple things like pushing really hard with the National Land Commission together with the Ministry of Lands to make sure that people can get just titles. Like that's all they just want. Like they just want titles because it unlocks the potential for their property.
Just listening to you, Tim, you hear there's Elgeyo Marakwet is everything. It comes from, Yes.
The valley. Yeah.
The valley itself, which has huge potential for livestock production and for crop production. There's the highland, which has all this potential.
Potatoes, yes.
There's the forests. And yet, if you look at what you're hearing from the people are just sitting there and they're thinking, we just need an opportunity. They don't want a handout. They just want to be facilitated to do what they do, to using the resources that they have to make their life better. This story is replicated across the
whole
country.
Absolutely.
Now, what is it that is missing because all politicians go and they listen to the people and they hear that. And all politicians, I'm sure, at that point, they're thinking, actually, yes, if I actually go into parliament, I can push one or two buttons to unlock the potential that these people have. Where is that missing link? What makes it not work from your observation, having now straddled both sides?
I don't know if I know the other side. I don't know if I truly know the other side. But if it's anything to go by, I see the president truly committed. The president is demanding of his cabinet secretaries to deliver the manifesto. They are going down to the manifesto. They are having tough conversations about what is possible. What is possible with the little money that we have in government? What can we do? They are shaving waste. I don't honestly think that it's possible to want. I just don't think. I think it's immoral to want to ask for public office and not want to follow through for the. I don't get it. I certainly know that politics is now different. You know, the process of getting into office and then sustaining that office may not necessarily require necessarily for you to develop. But I think what we saw, what at least I saw in the movement of young people, particularly that course, because we had a course called Kite Sight, which was its time. I had a 26-year-old young lady send me 100,000 shillings for my campaign.
What?
Outside from my county. I had 19-year-olds organize and mobilize groups of young people. So I think the wave of the politics is also changing, as it were. And I think that actually gives me a lot of hope. Is that people, it's no longer, I don't even think of it as politics. In fact, they don't even think of me as a politician. They think of me as someone that went out to understand what is it that they wanted from a legislator like myself or from a young leader like myself. And then they organized themselves and they actually believed that it's possible for us, for our lives to be meaningfully different. So I think that the politicians of the future will also change. Even I am surprised. I'm surprised that I think the politicians of the future will change because more young people are now engaged.
Tim, can I ask you a question? Now that you're a fully fledged card-carrying politician,
card-carrying.
Yes, card-carrying, and fully paid up, yani politician kabisa. There's no reverse gear here.
But I'm not a politician.
Oh, yes, you are.
I'm not. I'm not anymore a politician.
You see,
I've never been.
Actually, the reason why I'm saying this, someone who genuinely believes that they can get involved as a change agent in the process of actually bettering the lives of their people.
Yes.
You may not think so, but you're a politician. It's just that the word politician in this country has such a negative connotation. One doesn't really want to be associated with it. But that having been said...
No, it's true. I'm a politician. I asked for political office. So
yes, that having been said, what do you think would be the cumulative effect of a focus on the county and what can be done within the counties and the resources within the counties in changing people's lives? See, the focus tends to be on the national government, and it should be, because money comes from there. But money also does get to the county level. We've always had a debate here as to this money that they receive. We're always being told it's not enough, but we're never told what it actually does. Because if I look at every year without fail, the number of counties that are right in the eye of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
They are significant.
They are significant, which means that money goes anywhere and everywhere except where it should go. So, the focus on the money that the county gets. Because all these problems we're talking about, these young people belong to counties, all of them.
No, but to be fair, you know, the counties receive less than 500 billion Kenya shillings. A majority of the money is with
Tim,
national
that
government.
money is a lot.
I know it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But one of the most successful development innovation that Kenya has pioneered is CDF and devolution. So we should be thankful. The level of development that we have seen in the counties in the last 10 years was not possible in the last 20, 30 years.
It is true, Tim.
So there is craft, but for that we need to strengthen the rule of law. We need to strengthen the court system. We need to empower judiciary. We are now getting courts in every county, so that will help.
Tim, you know what I'm saying? I am saying that many of our counties, if they didn't have a big town like Eldoret, Kisumu, Kakamega, Nairobi, Mombasa within its boundaries, were essentially marginalized. And so far behind that even when a very little bit was done, you shouted to the heavens and felt, hi, a wonderful thing is being done. So you didn't question what else could be done with the money that was actually available. Yes, the progress that has been made seems significant because nothing was being done for the longest time.
From zero to...
Precisely. I am asking the second tier question. Okay, we've got it. Things are being done. I'm asking, is that all that could be done with the money?
No, absolutely not. Yes. Absolutely not. I think that counties should be thought of as engines of development. So in the 70s and in the 80s in Elgeyo Marakwet counties, our parents grew up in their parents were selling pyrethrum. You never asked anyone for money.
No, you didn't.
Pyrethrum was a cash crop. You actually had a salary. Coffee, I grew up in Sambirir. We were a coffee zone. You earned a living if you just sold a number of kilos of coffee.
Yes.
I think the county should be thought more, should be looked at not more like recipients of money from national government, but potentially engines of growth. And there is real power there. I mean, the Aror, unfortunately, and Kimwarer dams were significantly delayed, but the possibility. The developmental possibility.
No, you, my man, you are the quintessential diplomat.
Fully paid up.
Yes.
This is it, Tim.
But it's true. They were significantly delayed.
No, he's right. He's
of
right.
course they were.
He's right. Please carry on.
I'm just saying. No, so if you put in irrigation schemes in Aror, in Soy South, in Endo and Imbabut, I mean, those places, the temperature is fantastic. And there are even crops that we have not even that we have not even explored there. But sugarcane, for instance, is one of the crops that would do very, very, very well in those arid, warm Kerio Valley sites. And the particular type of variety of sugarcane that has been found to do well there generates double the sucrose content. Okay? So instead of 8%, it's 15% sucrose content. And the number two takes half the time to actually grow. So you bring peas, you bring water, you bring sugarcane, you bring mangoes. We are a net exporter as a country. Right now, we are a net importer of sugar as a country. Right now, we are a net importer of fruit. We are a net importer even
of everything.
Almost everything, even meat.
So the only thing we're a net exporter of is human resource. Yes. But please go on, Tim.
So imagine putting money there, whether it's in fertilizers, whether it's in peas, whether it's in infrastructure. Even as a country, we can export, we can significantly export sugarcane. Like right now, and that requires legislation, that requires champion. So I agree with you. Counties should not be a net recipient of money. At the end of the day, if Elgeyo Marakwet County receives 4 billion, they should say, okay, fine, 3 billion goes into salaries, half a billion goes into maintenance. Okay, we only have half a billion now. Because that's the problem, that they have legacy problems. Is that counties end up inheriting legacy challenges. So the county councils are already hired people. It's a very difficult conversation to fire people, even if it's the right thing.
Yeah.
You can't.
Let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
Let's take a break.
let's
It's
take a break.
26 minutes to 10. CT needs to take a minute break before he engages team some more. CT, what are you having? Apple?
Yes, it's called apple.
Minute apple. It's called apple.
It's called apple.
Inject some flavor in your life, CT.
Sheesh. And some descriptive linguistics as well.
But Tim, you like some of this? Some apple for you?
Kuna tropical, kuna mango.
Okay, let's give him the choice. There's
You know, Kite Side, it's from Elgeyo Marakwet County. Mangoes do very well. So patia mango.
You mambo ya apple patia nayo.
Patia mango. Elgeyo Marakwet County.
Are you
very good with pyrethrum, with coffee, with mangoes, with potatoes, with everything else, with even livestock, with very rich county. One of the men who was campaigning to be senator for Elgeyo Marakwet County and emerged as second, and the gap was what, 3,000 votes?
Yeah.
Yes.
3,000 votes. Some 34,000 people said yes. 38,000 people said yes to Tim Kipchumba. We'll continue this conversation shortly. Let's take this quick break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's time to step up and shine. Get instant airtime or data with every purchase of specifically marked tin of black kiwi polish. What do you need to do? Walk to your nearest store, buy a tin of kiwi black shoe polish, and once opened, find a unique code under the lid. Dial *459 *5# and send the code to stand a chance to win 35,000 Kenya shilling school fees every week, courtesy of Kiwi. Step up and shine with Kiwi. Terms and conditions apply.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Hiya, City. Do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda. I mean, I don't understand. What are they saying?
How are we comparison? I mean, you kill a mouse.
What are they saying?
What they're saying is, my father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man? Name, surprise. Someone's name.
The name surprised you?
No, the name is surprise.
No, what am I saying? I'm from Nigeria, man. I met somebody called I Believe. So I'm like, your name is I Believe? Yes, my name is I Believe. But that's the short form. I said, excuse me? I said, yes. My name is I Believe. So what's the full name? I believe in the goodness of
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Partly sunny conditions in Nairobi at 19, highs of 25. We'll see highs of 26 in a sunny Nakuru at 19. It's sunny at 16 in Nyeri, highs of 25, and we'll see highs of 25 as well in a sunny Eldoret. 29 and sunny conditions in Malindi, and we'll also see the same in Mombasa. This morning, it's sunny at 24, highs of 31, and we'll go to highs of 30 in Kakamega, where it's sunny at 25. 22 and partly sunny conditions in Kampala, highs of 28. Looking out into Dar es Salaam, we'll see highs of 30. It's cloudy this morning. And 21 and sunny in Johannesburg, going to highs of 29. 34 will be the high in Lagos, where it's sunny at 25, and it's 26 and mostly cloudy in Kinshasa, highs of 29. 3 degrees is what Beijing looks like going into early evening Tuesday, highs of just that and lows of -10. Getting colder and colder out in Paris is a snowstorm. -1, highs of 4 and lows of -2. It's already -2 in London, highs of 3. And we'll see highs of 8 in New York, where it's partly cloudy at 3.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, so we're still looking at a little bit of traffic on the thicker superhighway, but much better now. That whole mess that was in Westlands is, slowing down. Not too bad. And faster traffic in most parts of the city, at least for now. Coming out of traffic hour with not too much of a scratch. So this is good. Through the morning, let's know what's going on with you. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Watch The Last Door with John Alanamu. 2 episodes already done, aired on Maisha Magic Plus every Sunday, 8 p.m. So 2 episodes, that means 2 Sundays ago, that's when we premiered. This Sunday, a 3rd episode comes up on Maisha Magic Plus. Channel what on DSTV?
163.
And channel what on GoTV?
8.
Okay. And this is what it is. It's this investigative true crime series by John Alanamu, airing every Sunday. Schools are about to open. Please, before we forget, it's very, very important. We talk about how you can pay school fees for your children.
Yeah, one way to do that is buy a tin of Kiwi black shoe polish. You do that at any of your supermarkets, and under the lid is a code. You will take your phone and you will dial *459*5#.
Abu showed him.
So
give him the tin. Let him look at it.
And then you will dial that number. Now, Tim, you have to buy the polish first. Do you understand?
How much is it?
You go to a shop, buy polish.
Okay. Now, when you buy the polish, it will look something like that. Now, let me show you. So then, when you buy, you will then open the lid. Here, there will be a code. Then you will send that code to this number, this *459*5#. And guess what? Immediately, not tomorrow, you win airtime or bundles. What's your choose? What's your fancy today? Bundles, airtime. That one, they don't even they give you. They give you here. Then they also give you a chance to enter the draw. Enter into a weekly draw, and you could win. Get this: 35,000 shillings towards school fees.
35,000 shillings. That's enough school fees.
That's enough.
Yes, isn't it? 35,000 shillings.
I could use that, by the way.
Right?
I haven't come out of the campaign.
And kids must go to school whether or not.
And I have 3 sons that need
There you go.
Which
is more than just school fees.
He scored reasonably well. 4 or 5.
Well done.
No, that is extremely reasonably well. Yes, very good. Congratulate the young man for us. What's his
Do you
name?
know what school he's been admitted to?
Ethan. Yeah. Do you know what school he's going to?
He's been selected to go to Nanyuki.
There you go.
Nanyuki is one of those that have very high demand. Very top demand. School that attracted many applicants against their capacity in 2021-2022. Number 1, Nanyuki High School. In this particular academic year, schools that attracted very many applicants. Number 2, Nanyuki High School. And your son actually got it.
Yeah, sure.
Very good.
You can imagine.
Well done. Well done.
So you can step up and shine.
35,000.
All the way to Nanyuki.
Yes. City, we interrupted you when you were in the middle of asking a question.
You know, the Tim mentioned the amount that the county he comes from, the great county he comes from, the amount that they receive as part of
exchequer.
Yes, disbursement for that county. Now, and then talks about the legacy problem. I want you to consider the possibility that the problem may not be what we think the problem is. In this sense, yes, there was a local authority. Yes, the people work for the local authority. But that isn't the problem. That's a symptom. You have money and you feel that the way in which you can grow your county is by employing more people. Instead of thinking of that money as you would a startup. You see where I'm going with this one. This is 4 billion that we are getting.
What else can we do to multiply?
Yes, and even these people who are employed, what can we get them to do beyond just feeling that they are employed and they require salary? What can they do to even justify what we are paying them beyond saying, I am an employee?
Absolutely.
It's a thinking issue. That is the problem. The way to rethink a situation and to refocus whatever resources you have. That, in my view, is the problem.
That's true.
Yes.
No, I agree with you. Government has a role. I mean, can you imagine a small city like Shenzhen 30 years ago was just a fishing village. Today, Shenzhen grows so drastically. It's twice the size of Nairobi, and exports.
You name it.
I don't know. I mean, it's one of the few cities. But the reason it changed so much, and the reason it's one of the few cities that now exports more than 25 million containers out of China. So that's 1 container per second. It's because of government. Government made a decision in China that they want to name 7 cities on the east coast of China as special economic zones. So they designated those ones as special economic zones, and they said our strategy is to export. In 1979, that heralded a new China.
Yep.
But it also heralded a new America, because after 1979, manufacturing in America fell significantly and has never recovered. But China has always been on the boom because of the strategic decision that government made to say, you know what, we want this city, we want these 7 cities to become export hubs for the rest of the world. We want to be the factory of the world. And so they created, by design, they created those 7 cities to become leaders in export. But it's the same thing. So Kenya Kwanza, the president is saying, I want to use aggregate, I want to use fertilizer, I want to use these inputs. So government has a role that it can play. And I agree with you, counties should be thought of as engines of growth. And I must congratulate my governor. I mean, he's now doing a cash crop award, saying, you know what, this ward is very good with pyrethrum, let's do something about that. This what needs this intervention, this what needs intervention. And hopefully, in another 3-4 years, each one of those farmers from my wards potentially gets to earn a living just from cash crop. And subsequently, the county also makes money, and then subsequently, people's lives are actually better just from the little money that the counties are getting. So I do agree with you that we do need to look at startups. There's nothing stopping Nairobi right now from making a similar decision, because it matters where you live globally. And Nairobi could become like a brain hub. It can become the place where it can house startups in Africa. The laws in Nairobi can be created in such a way that we can be the company, the city that pulls all the capital. If we did that, last year, Africa got $5 trillion, more than $5 billion last year. If we attracted a significant chunk of that, more engineers and more technology companies can be founded in Nairobi. But then, because of that, more companies can also come to Nairobi because of the ecosystem.
Tim, they're already doing that. Some big brand names on the planet have already chosen Nairobi as the regional hub, where previously you heard of South Africa. We are hearing Nairobi, which means what you're saying has been seen by people whose business is global and they've understood it.
But we could do more. So financial
more,
innovation.
Infinitely more.
Yeah.
Infinitely more, because the opportunity not only has presented itself, it has beckoned, and it keeps beckoning. Now, the government ought to, and the government must, and the government should. Again, my thinking is, when the government doesn't, and yet we have a second tier called the county government.
What should it do?
Yes, this is what I'm saying. Because some of the efforts that we are saying, yes, the government acts and does what it's supposed to, provides the opportunity. Do we jump into that opportunity and then move along with it?
You know, as I hear you, like that example that you've given, Deng Xiaoping comes into power in China and he has this vision and he starts the vision, but he's also just building on the block of a party that had been created, and this huge monstrosity of a party, his government, that then ensure that there is continuity, whether it's Deng Xiaoping who's in office or the next president. And I was just asking myself, do we have a problem then with the way we run our politics and the way we do it? Kibaki comes in, he has this idea, but it seems like it's a Kibaki idea. The next person who comes in has to start from somewhere else.
Those, yeah. What
William Ruto is talking about now, yes, he's coming up with the ideas and building blocks for his ideas. When he leaves office, is that going to be sustained? Or will somebody else come and now take a whole different direction? Actually, no, this other guy was doing hides and skins in Naivasha. Forget about hides and skins in Naivasha. I want to focus on cashew nuts, don't know where. How do we ensure that there is sustainability? There was an attempt by having the Vision 2030. That document is just a document.
No. To be fair, even the current president, our president, has been focused on Big Four.
Yeah.
If you look at this continuation of the projects is launched in Kisumu, the projects at Digital Fiber, all those are continuation of
It's a Big
Vision
Four.
24.
Yeah.
And then they are all part of Big Four agenda. I think the only thing that the president has now done that is unique is saying, let's focus on the hustlers. Let's put more money at the base of the pyramid as a basis for a more stable form of prosperity. Instead of having a trickle down, let's not do mega projects alone. Let's also put money. In places where ordinary people can actually earn a gainful living. And it can be as simple as even just, like in some places like in Elgeyo Marakwet County, you have to go to Wasingishu for you to get fertilizer. Just decentralizing fertilizer into every single ward just immediately makes it possible because, fertilizer is 3,500 in Eldoret, but by the time it gets to the farmer, it's actually 3,000, 4,000 because you have to transport it to those places. But even then, even if you just consider that this government will be 10 years, the amount of prosperity that can be created in the next 10 years, we should be optimistic about it. We should be optimistic about how this government can potentially use technology to increase service and digitize.
True, but how do we ensure that sustainability so that legacy does not become a problem? Remember what you said. Many of the county governments, new country administrators are coming and taking on legacy problems. These are not problems being viewed as problems by their predecessors. They are being viewed as opportunities by their predecessors. But then the new guy comes in and he's like, all right, the way this thing was implemented, the hurry which it was implemented, the structures that were put in place, this is a problem, not an opportunity. How do we ensure that we have whatever is being started today becomes a legacy opportunity?
Yeah. No, I think the only thing to do, for people like you, Ndu and Muga, is to frame the real challenges of the country.
Absolutely.
Right now, the biggest challenge for our country is cost of living, is opportunities for young people, because we have more than 9 million young people that need gainful opportunity, and that is growing by 1 million every year. It's debt, okay, because a huge portion of our revenue, actually almost 60-70% of our revenue is now going to service debt. So if we can frame the opportunity, then every administration, at the backdrop of their manifesto, they will be focusing on the thing that matters. And I think I really like the situation room for that, because we are really saying what is important, what's a topical issue for the decade, what's a topical issue for not the decade, what's a topical issue for these 2 or 3 years, because it's been perennial. I mean, if you look at the last 3-4 years, the challenge has just been cost of living, debt rising, contributed partly by many things. One of them, corruption, but the other one is revenue not growing fast enough because the environment is bad for business. I think that if media and third estate frame the challenges for the country without necessarily taking sides, I think that's already a good step, because then everyone is coming and saying, okay, what's the solution? Because I really genuinely think right now all focus should be in export. Should be in export for things that the country can make productively, and should be in export of our human resources. And in the last conversation, I was telling you, right now as we speak, Canada needs a little over 1 million jobs. Right now as we speak, in this conference room.
Yeah,
but
vacancies.
In Kenya, we have 9 million young people that need jobs. We need to conclude the labor agreements with Canada. We need to task the Canadian embassy. Ambassador say, okay, last year Canada employed 400,000 young people out of India. Okay, 200,000 out of India, 50,000 out of Nigeria. We have a quarter for 20,000. How can we maximize that 20,000, and how can we increase that to 100,000 so we can send young people to Canada? But also, what else can we do more? Can we engage Canadian entrepreneurs? Because when you interview Canadian entrepreneurs today, they tell you the biggest challenge they have is labor force. You speak to Korea, they tell you the biggest challenge is labor force. You speak to Germany, the biggest problem they are having right now is they don't have labor content. They don't have labor. But then on this other side of the continent, we have excess talent. We have, I mean, of the 20 jobs interviewed for my county, 4 sub-counties, teachers, 3,000 people applied.
For jobs?
No, 20. Because 4 jobs against 600,
and then now
20, more than 3,000. So the real opportunity we have right now as a country is how can we reorganize government? How can we reorganize government today to make sure every single department is a servant that it's almost like a client manager, client service or someone like that, where you are overseeing growth for entrepreneurs, because that, remember, 60 to 70% of all jobs always come from local service jobs, so private sector. 140 million American jobs, 112 of them is in private sector. So we really do need private sector to succeed. We need to worry about cost of power in the country, because cost of power cannot be 2 times the cost of power in America, because it would never otherwise be competitive. It cannot be 5 times the cost of power in China. We need to worry, what is it that we can actually really humanly do to make sure that we are exporting something out of Kenya, whether it's in goods, it's in produce, in everything, and we are exporting human talent out of the country. Because if we could do that as a country, we immediately can get foreign remittances. We can get foreign dollars. We can get money in dollars, which allows us to cover our debt obligations. We can expand opportunities for young people. We can get more income. We can get income for our farmers, because if we have pyrethrum in Elgeyo Marakwet County and they're harvesting it month on month, we now need a pyrethrum factory. Okay, we have a pyrethrum factory that is generating jobs. That's more income for our people. If the whole of government can be reorganized, and I think the president has that in mind, and we have legislative support for the president, and we have all funding going into those places. I genuinely think that the next decade will be better for us.
Tim, how do we change the conversation? I'll explain to you why I'm asking that question. Because if you look at the Kibaki government and the Uruto government, the thing that they focused on was infrastructure, big projects, roads, what have you. We have roads, not everywhere, but we have more roads than we've ever had. The foundation on which we build what you are saying,
it's already done, yeah?
It's been done. We need to mop up a few things, finish 1 or 2 projects, but that has been done. Now, the continuity of government is something we don't usually see. That the success of one government is often dependent on the previous government and what they did. People talk about labor export, forgetting that actually that is a President Daniel Arap Moi legacy. Because it is Moi who expanded learning in this school, in this country, and took higher learning to a level it had never been in before. It is him.
And so our talent became competitive.
Yes, it's him. Then, of course, the nature of the government then encouraged people to leave the country because
so it opened opportunities.
It opened very, very vast opportunities. So inadvertently, again, credit goes to that particular leadership.
That's true.
But we don't talk about it. Now, I am saying, here we are now. And this conversation of the continuity, we have infrastructure, we have this, we have all these things. But our conversation, if you listen to it, it's as though these things didn't happen.
So how do you change the conversation?
That's what we're doing right now. We actually changed that conversation. We're saying, we already have this, okay? The previous government have built this. Now, this government, the very things you're saying, they can do. This huge road network and all these things that needed to be done by previous government, they don't need to do.
Yes.
It's no longer necessary.
They don't need to focus on the last mile.
Yes, they need to focus. And the government that will come after this now needs to focus on taking us to the next level.
And I think that the president has seen that. So the bias is now just us. How can we... So it's to look at the citizen in the country and say, my client is an hustler. How can I take care of their special interests? And that hustler might be 18 to 30 years old. So the best opportunity for them might be fiber. Get them fiber. People can learn to do media. They can export talent. They can actually do not even export. They can just export service. In other cases, the hustler is a farmer. Okay. What help? What intervention does the farmer need? Needs extension services. Needs fertilizer. Needs a bit of funding. Needs for us to secure markets out of the country. Needs for us to do offtake. I think just that alone might open, because sometimes when we talk policy, we forget who we represent. Half the time many people that do policy forget that there is a farmer, there is a lady in Elgeyo Marakwet County that harvested their potatoes last year, sold a whole bag for 300 shillings. So just took 2 plates of chips. And so she didn't even go back to harvest the potatoes because it would have cost more to go dig it out. Yeah, but then what can we do to prevent? How can we, I think the whole conversation is, how can we help ASLAs meet some of their aspirations by reorganizing government to respond to the needs of ASLAs?
Tim, thank you always for joining us. And come again soon. And let's continue now. We shift the conversations into the what's possible and what ought to be done. Tim Kipchumba is an entrepreneur, he's a mentor, he's a politician, he's been our guest this hour. Thank you very much for joining us. Tomorrow we'll be back here at what time?
6 a.m.
to
10 a.m.
And now it's 10 a.m. Have a lovely day, people.
Thank you so much.